folks. Today's episode sponsored by one of our favorite sponsors. Of course, I'm talking about Sunset Lake, Sebede.com. If you use the code Left is Best, you will get 20% off of everything there. I am just coming off of using my Sebede lotion, which I had to use almost throughout the entire winter on my calves because they get so itchy. The lotion is great. I am still using multiple times a week the Good Night oil, but they have smokables. They have other types of Sebede tinctures. They got gummies with a little Delta Na and a little bit of Tesse. Yes, we have to be careful about some of the letters of the alphabet that we use on here. But all of their Sebede is third-party tested. You can go to their website, find a breakdown of everything that's on there in any of their products. They have great farming practices. They use integrated pest management. They also use no pesticides. They use regenerative farming practices. They have great business practices. Everybody gets paid at least $20 an hour minimum wage, but mostly they're employee-owned. And they have great politics. They have donated literally tens of thousands of dollars to strike relief funds, carceral reform, refugee resettlement, Planned Parenthood, across the board, food pantries. They've engaged in mutual aid in the wake of the Vermont floods. They also engaged in what I consider some form of mutual aid by getting out there and doing a little bit of the protesting against Vance when he was up in the Vermont area. Just an all-around great company, great products, fudge, coffee, all infused with Sebede. Check it out. Oh, they also have cannabis. They have Sebede vapes now, too. So check it out. Sunset Lake. Sebede.com. Use the coupon code Left is Best. You will get 20% off. And now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, March 14th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. The audio is messed up on me. Will we fix it? On the program today, Jeet Heer, National Affairs Correspondent for The Nation magazine. Also on the program today, the Republican budget vote to take place in the Senate in about an hour. Chuck Schumer preemptively surrenders, but may face a possible Senate mutiny with your help.
Call. Keep calling.
Meanwhile, Democrats across the ideological divide start talking of a 2028 AOC primary run at Concierge Schumer. San Francisco U.S. District Judge orders federal agencies to rehire tens of thousands of the probationary employees who were fired. Remember, probationary employees includes not just new employees to the government, but also people who have recently gotten promoted. In other words, some of the best employees. A second district judge, this time in Baltimore, orders a mass reinstatement of those fired federal workers, even beyond the probationary ones. Judge Chutkan, U.S. District for D.C., orders Musk and Doge to hand over documents so that there's some transparency to what they're actually doing. Meanwhile, Trump signs off on the Republicans' quest to cut Medicaid in their next year's budget. And Trump will reportedly invoke Wartime Alien Enemies Act, the one that justified Japanese internment camps in this country during World War II to carry out mass deportations. Protesters crashed Trump Tower in support of Mahmoud Khalil's release. And Putin rejects a ceasefire. Lastly, U.S. and Israel, they're sending out feelers in order to ethnic cleanse Gaza and send Palestinians to Africa. True story. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is
Casual Friday.
Yeah, we're hyped up. It's not that casual.
No.
Do we have that Chiron down below? We're going to put a Chiron right here. You have an hour and about 5 minutes, I suspect a little bit more, to flood your Senate offices with messages.
Yep.
And the message is easy. 2 things. No on cloture, no on the Republican budget. No and no. And particularly if you are in Nevada. If you
Both
are
Nevada senators are rumored to be yes, but that they've been quiet about it, particularly ever since this has been a mass backlash from the most centrist House Democrat all the way up to the squad.
Jeff Stein just tweeted out 4 minutes ago, based on my DMs today, a large number of federal workers are livid with the Senate Minority Leader.
mortified penguin just IM'd us just now. I'm a federal employee. A shutdown couldn't happen at a worse time for me personally, but I'm in fully support of one. Democrats need some leverage, some semblance of power for once. Keep calling, friends.
And that lines up with what the union is saying, too.
Well, let me just get these, tell the senators as we go through this.
Yep.
2 senators from Nevada.
Rosen and Cortez Masto, call both of them if you're in Nevada.
Peters in Michigan.
Who's retiring and is being cowardly, even though Tina Smith in Minnesota is voting no, and she's also retiring.
Jean Shaheen, also retiring.
New Hampshire.
Angus King up in Maine.
He's 80, so probably retiring.
Dick Durbin in Illinois, and he is also expected to retire. Schatz and Hirono in Hawaii, people aren't sure what they're doing as far as last we knew. Hawaii apparently has a ton of federal government workers. And Klobuchar. John Ossoff confirmed that he was a no vote.
Warnock has been kind of bullish, and he just said about a half hour ago that come 26 and 28 might be time for new leadership for the Democratic Party.
I mean, yes, an understatement if there ever was. MJS16. Sam, does the fact that Schumer and Fetterman are clear yes votes indicate this has something to do with the ability to continue to fund Israel? I don't think so. I think that they may share some donors, though.
My theory here is that Gillibrand, it's not committed that she's going to vote yes for cloture, which is the wrong thing. But the reporting after the show yesterday was that she was heard screaming at the top of her lungs at the rest of her caucus, and the reporters could hear it from the hallway. And my assumption here is that she just got reelected. She is now the head of the DSCC, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, I think is the acronym, but in charge of getting Democrats reelected in the Senate. She's extremely close with Wall Street. It's why she's one of the most pro-crypto Democrats. And they are panicked right now because Trump's tariffs are sending the stock market into a free fall. And when we have a government shutdown, the stock market does take a plunge. So they're saying to Schumer and to Gillibrand, hey, let's just stabilize things here. And the implicit understanding is we'll write you fat checks later on because you're the adults in the room. But what we're trading away is the ability of Elon Musk to continue to illegally tinker with the budget when it's not his purview, nor is it the executive branches, unless they, file under the Impoundment Act, and that takes 30 days. And the entire House, except for one Democrat, voted against it. And the Senate, led by Schumer, is hanging them out to dry.
All right, let's play this clip of Schumer.
Sorry.
We're going to talk more about this with Jeet Heer. I will say, we're getting some IMs saying that voicemails are shut down. The DC, the Minnesota Senator DC phones are down. Hold times at the switchboards. Yes, this is a very good sign. You can also look up your local offices for your senator. So look for the New York offices of Schumer and Gillibrand if you can't get through to their DC offices. Look up the local offices in Vegas in Nevada. I got Vegas on the mind. So that's a way you can get through. We have the switchboard up right now, but call your local offices as well. And you know what? Double up, because they're not going to have time to cross-reference lists. So it's not a bad thing to have you call and flood the local offices, the in-state offices, and the DC offices. Here is Chris Hayes interviewing Chuck Schumer last night. And you need only look at some of the tweets or bleats that Hayes has been putting out to know his perspective on this too. Everyone is just sitting around, cannot believe this is the strategy.
The AFG union, which is the largest union representing federal workers, they won a big victory today in federal court about those probationary employees who were fired. They came out against the CR, which really surprised me, right? These are the people that seem to have the most skin in the game on precisely the terms you're enunciating. And they said, the fact that this CR has no protections that it will actually be followed means that we can't support it. If the people whose livelihoods are on the line say you cannot go along with this thing, why are they wrong?
I understand why they're so upset with the CR, but I disagree with them because the shutdown would be worse for their employees. They could just eliminate huge portions of government workers automatically. They could eliminate programs automatically, which they can't do on the CR. The CR has certain spending, and they can screw around with it, and they will. These guys...
Pause it. Wait a second. Pause it right there. The reason why there's these court cases, the reason why there have been tens of thousands of federal workers fired is exactly under the exact same legal structure that exists now. So, he tries to glide through that, to just glide right through that. Well, they can do it either way. They could play with the spending. Yes, that's what they're doing. What has been going on since January 21st is a rolling government shutdown, and one that is unconstitutional, illegal, separate things, and they have no leverage to stop this. You can wait for the court cases, but in terms of the politics and the statutes, they have no way to stop this.
Except for if Senate Democrats do their job. And the House Democrats, all except one, voted with and put themselves on the line, even in Trump districts, as AOC has said, and Schumer's throwing them all under the bus.
Has certain spending, and they can screw around with it, and they will. These guys are sons of guns. They're going to do everything they can to hurt the government. You know what they've talked about. Elon Musk, this billionaire who cares nothing about taking people's Social Security away. This guy says that he wants to cut $2 trillion out of the federal government. A shutdown would allow him to do it. And here's another point, Chris. There's no exit ramp. Anyone who wants the shutdown, I've asked them, well, how do we get out of it? Guess who it's up to get out of it? Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Doge. So it's a horrible...
Pause it for a second. Exactly. So there it is. Schumer just says that everyone he's talked to knows that if the government shuts down, that the one person or three people or three entities who can turn the government back on won't do it. So in other words, he's conceding right there that he understands that politically speaking, they will take the blame for it. And this is where we're at right now. This is the government is under assault. There is absolutely no reason to believe, and the Republicans have said this, they know they have 2 years. There is no reason to believe there is any way to stop this. This is it. This is like the one time where I agree with an accelerationist thing, because the fact is we are on a locked in path right now. And it's going to exist over the 2 years.
Yeah.
And so we either have it happen now in a way in which it is where the Republicans will have to put the brakes on.
But it's not accelerationism. It's like the motivation behind a strike. Like if you get a contract where the terms are dog crap, at some point you do have to strike. And that's what this government shutdown would be.
Good.
Elon Musk, Doge. So it's it's two bad alternatives. And I respect people who actually don't want it, vote for the CR. It's awful. But with the alternative being a government shutdown, that's even worse.
Wall Street's
So
upset.
here's the other sort of way that I've heard people phrase this, right? Democrats don't control any part of the government. So there's not a ton of leverage. The one thing they have leverage is in the Senate, where you need a filibuster-proof majority on a cloture vote. That there's essentially an unconstitutional assault on the government right now. And I think you would agree with that,
There
right?
is.
Assault on the constitutional
These guys are the worst, and we got to fight them every step of the way. As we say in Brooklyn, Chris, every step of the way.
But look, Russ Vought is already telling people, but he's telling people on the floor, we are not even going to listen to this CR. This is a piece of paper that we will impound and rip up the moment it's passed. If that's the case, how is voting for cloture not essentially an imprimatur on the very same assault on the constitutional order?
They're already, even without this CR, they're already doing it.
Right.
Okay? They did it to the Department of Education. But I can tell you, I've been through shutdowns before. It's not that this CR is good. It's not that voting for it is good. It's horrible. But the alternative is worse. And we have to look just a month ahead and see how bad a shutdown would be for all the things we believe in, and how I'd say Trump and Doge and Musk and Vote, they're like drooling with happiness and desire to get a government shutdown. They've said they want it.
I'm so sorry. He said that to start the interview, and he just said it a second time. That is an abject lie. Donald Trump was whipping votes for the continuing resolution in the House. He threatened a primary challenge against Thomas Massie if he didn't go along with it. Chuck Schumer is basically saying that the Republican bill, Donald Trump doesn't want it to pass. This morning, Trump truthed out a social and socialed out a truth, thanking Chuck Schumer for his support for the continuing resolution. He really has a funny way of showing it, that, by threatening House Republicans that don't vote for it, and by praising Schumer for supporting it. Apparently, House Republicans don't want it to pass. Well, he also says in it, right, that Republicans will do whatever Trump wants. But also, they're passing the continuing resolution.
Yeah, they have the power to tank it if they want to shut down.
So Thune and Johnson, even though apparently they always do whatever Trump wants, they're also passing this continuing resolution against his wishes.
CNN reported yesterday, it was a full court press from the White House.
Yep.
VP J.D. Vance came to the Capitol on the morning of the vote, where he warned House Republicans the GOP would be blamed if the government shuts down. Person in the room told CNN, Vance told members that the party will lose momentum on Trump's agenda if the stopgap spending bill fails, specifically pointing to border security and political momentum. It's weird when a political party talks about politics. That's just me editorializing. He also vowed the White House would claw back spending in other forms, including through a wonky process known as recessions, a move conservatives cheered, another person said. I mean, it's hard to know if Schumer's just this out of touch or lying. It really is. Because who does he think he's lying to? It's not like normies are involved in the sort of like the minutia of this stuff. They're not going to hear his lying explanations, and no one he's talking to.
They just want to see him
Chris
fight.
Hayes in this instance.
Yeah.
Not the reporters. No one believes what he's saying. Go ahead.
Drooling with happiness and desire to get a government shutdown. They've said they want it. Why? Not for doing anything good. I'll tell you that. These guys are authoritarians.
Let me just say with this in 1 second. I think the theory of the case for people that don't want Democrats to vote for cloture is that Americans don't quite understand what's being done to their government. It's being done in this sort of haphazard fashion. The stories are sort of getting out. You know, there's this Forest Service worker who got laid off for no reason, and there's this veteran who's got a traumatic brain injury, who's got a clinical trial. But the shutdown would be a way of actually calling the question. And here's what I would just offer. It seems to me that the demand that makes the most sense here, and I'm not a U.S. senator, is for the Republicans to vote on a rescission package that enunciates the cuts DOJ has done, as opposed to allowing an unelected co-president unilaterally eviscerate the American constitutional power of the purse.
Exactly.
Well, the bottom line is the Republican Senate is in total obeisance to Trump. They're not going to oppose him in any
Guess
way.
who else is in total obeisance to Trump?
You there.
Like, honestly, like, everything he's saying is...
But
I
they're
don't-
passing the CR against his wishes, apparently. They're both in total obeisance to Trump, but they also want a government shutdown.
Just let him... oh, God, this is so stupid.
Good job,
This is so
Chris
stupid.
Hayes.
Go ahead.
Senate is in total obeisance to Trump. They're not going to oppose him in any way. But if they allow Trump to make the kind of drastic cuts that I greatly fear in a government shutdown, they'll be culpable as well. And make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. Why? Ask yourself again the question: why does Musk and Trump and Vote want this? Vote already has plans on how to slash the government, far worse than slashed in the CR. Much worse. Every program, every part of government would be at their disposal, their wicked disposal. So that's the problem here. It's not that the CR is good, it's horrible. All things being equal, we should have opposed it. But the alternative being a shutdown makes things worse. And I believe this much worse.
What scenario is all things being equal? Like, you are basically saying there is absolutely no circumstance, because I don't know where there could be a more relevant circumstance. You certainly will not find the trans ideological coalition, if you will, ad hoc coalition of people who want to vote against the CR in agreement. I can't imagine another circumstance where, aside from Chuck Schumer, you got like Iglesias, and that's about it.
You know, Neera Tanden's against this. Like all the resistance liberals, you know what? They actually want you to resist. They're aligned with the left here.
There is no other circumstance where one would ever vote against a continuing resolution if it wouldn't be this one.
Exactly.
So everything he's saying, like all things being equal, what are you talking about? This is absurd.
But he betrays it by saying, I've been through a government shutdown before. It's because he's acting like it's business as usual, and it's not. And that's when we talk about how he's incapable of meeting this moment. That's what this is.
Should we play any more of this? Or it's just absurd. Call. I know voicemails are shut down. Call local offices. Call the statewide offices. They'll have one in the capital of your state. They'll have one in D.C., but they'll also have a couple of local offices around too. So try that. We're going to take we got a couple of sponsors, and then we'll be talking to Jeet more about this. Oh, I could use some right now. Saul's been sick lately. I've been a little bit sick too. One of the things that's great for a sore throat I've always taken is honey, except for since I discovered Manakora honey, I have stepped up this game. Manakora honey is the best tasting honey you will ever try. It has a consistency like no other honey you have ever had. It's rich, it's creamy, it's sort of like almost like caramel-y. and it has incredibly powerful nutrients to support immunity and gut health. It's ethically produced by Manicora's master beekeepers in the remote forests of New Zealand. The bees collect the nectar from the manuka tree, a tea tree in New Zealand. The nectar is packed with bioactives. The honey that is produced has 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey, which have a lot to begin with. Special antibacterial compound called MGO also comes from the nectar of the tea tree. And Manacora third-party tests every single harvest for MGO, makes these results available on their QR system. Also, it labels it. You can actually get some with even more intense MGO. It's a game changer. All you need is 1 heaped teaspoon each morning to get the most out of these amazing bioactives in Manuka. Additional usage throughout the day, completely fine and delicious. Put it in your yogurt, put it in your tea, put it on a piece of toast, however you use honey, or you want to cut out other sweeteners. Thanks to Manacora for supporting the Majority Report. Now it's easier than ever to try Manacora honey. Head to manacora.com/majority. Get $25 off the starter kit, which comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, which are great for kids' lunches, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's Manacora, manacora.com/majority. $25 off your starter kit. Put the link in the YouTube and podcast descriptions. Also, sponsoring the program today, ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not closing the door when you go to the bathroom. Even if you think you have nothing to hide, why give random creeps a chance to invade your privacy? I want to thank ExpressVPN for supporting the Majority Report. Here's the deal. Visit expressvpn.com/majority. You can get an extra 4 months free. Internet service providers, and this includes mobile network providers, they know every single website you visit because all of your traffic flows through their servers. And in the U.S., ISPs are legally allowed to sell that information to advertisers. ExpressVPN reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure encrypted servers, so your ISP cannot see your browsing history. It hides your IP address. It makes it very difficult for third parties to track your online activity. Plus, it also keeps everything you're doing secure if you're using like one of those public Wi-Fis. Plus, you can also use it to maybe check out stuff that you want to watch in a different region. It is easy, super easy to use. Fire up the app, you click one button, you get protected. It works on all your devices, phones, laptops, tablets, and more. You can stay private on the go. Optional dedicated IP service engineered with innovative zero-knowledge design. Not even ExpressVPN can trace an IP address back to the user. For U.S. customers, it comes with Identity Defender, which is a new suite of tools to get your data removed from data brokers, alert you when data appears in the dark web, and even insure you against data theft for up to $1 million. It is rated #1 by tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. And I'll tell you, for me, the easiest thing, all the benefits come with a one click. It is super, super easy to use. It always sounded intimidating to me, but it is the thing to use. Saul is starting to get into like, you need to use a VPN. You need to use a VPN. And I'm like, I'm using it. And then he's like, how? You're a boomer. And then we get into an argument about that. Protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/majority. That's expressvpn.com/majority to find out how you can get up to 4 months extra free. expressvpn.com/majority. We'll put the link in the podcast and YouTube description. Got a quick break, and then we'll be back with Jeet Heer, national affairs correspondent for The Nation. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. It is a pleasure to welcome back to the program Jeet Heer, National Affairs Correspondent for The Nation magazine. Jeet, we are about 45 minutes from at least the scheduled vote in the Senate on, they're calling it a continuing resolution, but it really isn't. I mean, it is just a Republican budget. There's enough that's changed in there that I think it qualifies as a Republican budget. It's not a continuing resolution.
You called it the Doge Empowerment Act on Twitter, which I think is pretty apt.
But I think the actual impact of it is that it is basically empowering Doge.
Yeah.
Give me your.
By the way, it's not just Sam that's saying this. Donald Trump is saying this. Like, he's like chortling on social media, like, thank you, Chuck Schumer. Like, you've given us everything we wanted.
And I mean, but just walk us through. You were just saying when we came on, and Nancy Pelosi came out and called out Chuck Schumer.
Yes.
Now she's from San Francisco, so she's completely. But give us your perspective on that. Like,
I do think that there's actually opening up a serious divide in the party between the Senate and Democrats, and not just the Senate Democrats. Basically, Chuck Schumer and a few kind of centrist in his circle, and the rest of the party. And it's very notable that, like Nancy Pelosi, yes, San Francisco, but
I was joking about that.
No, but every House Democrat has including Hakeem Jeffries, is basically not on board for this. And one is seeing a kind of, if one is unkind, you would say, the rats leaving the sinking ship. Or more, properly, the sort of stalwart, vote blue no matter who, blue MAGA diehards, they're not on board for this. And then one saw last night an incredible array of characters who have defended all the worst compromises that this party has made over the last 20 years, suddenly saying okay, this is too much, And then we'll mention, your listeners are, I think, very savvy on social media, but, Neera Tanden, who, in addition to having worked as a staffer for Joe Biden, is the only person in the world who has ever been denied a cabinet level position because they tweeted too much. And specifically, they tweeted over the last 8 years in constant battle against the left wing of the party and against so-called Bernie bros. And suddenly, Neera Tanden is saying, what the hell are we doing? What is Schumer doing? This is the one leverage that they've ever had, and they're giving it up. And this is really bad politics.
Can I read some quotes from the centrist Democrats if you want?
Read these quotes. But Jeet, I want to get your take on how much of this, there's always some senators, Congress people out there. I mean, the Congress people had the ability to take this vote and really have it have no implications because they knew it was going to pass anyways. And a lot of times that's a way politicians hide. Let's hear these quotes, and then I just want to get your assessment as to how sincere the reactions from these people sound. A lot more sincere than just covering their vote.
Well, they're putting their name on the record. This is just a short aside, but Becca Boleyn, Schumer is misreading the moment. I wrote this down. Steve Cohen, longtime Democrat from Tennessee, I think. It doesn't look good for the leader. And you have Seth Moulton, who is the most centrist, pro-military industrial complex Democrat imaginable, going on the record to criticize Chuck Schumer. And the article that we haven't gotten to yet, and we will, I'm sure, later, the explosive article in CNN about how even centrist Democratic House members are urging AOC to primary Chuck Schumer is... the divide between the House Democrats, who every 2 years are responsible for voters, and the ivory tower senators, who the ones who are rumored to be voting yes on cloture are either retiring or aren't up for 4 or 6 years. I've never seen such a divide between both the two chambers, and fury from the House Democrats.
The party is splitting open. I mean, before you read the quotes, I just want to emphasize there's that material difference between if you're in the House and in the Senate. It's every 2 years. And if you're in the House, you hear from your constituents a lot, and you have to pay attention to them because your vote is coming up and you have to raise money. And these are the people that are getting, like, at the town halls, getting an earful and they're much closer to the base of the party and are hearing that, like, the real anger. And it's the anger not just from people that watch the Majority Report and have been staunch progressives all along, but from mainstream centrist Democrats, who had supported Joe Biden, but who are freaked out, frankly, rightly so, about what Trump and Musk are doing, who see what Trump and Musk are doing as an existential threat to American democracy, who basically believe what Democrats have said, that, this is like a fascist threat, and then suddenly see their leader say, this is a fascist threat, but we will surrender and not use our leverage. That is what is happening. The House Democrats are listening to their constituents, and the senators, because they're not up for a while, they think they have the luxury of ignoring voters.
All right, let's. I want to just do a little experiment here. Let's steel man Chuck Schumer's arguments, which is an experiment because I have never done that for Chuck Schumer.
I was actually thinking of writing a column about this, like just making the best possible case for Chuck Schumer.
And he said one of them, he said, and I'm going by some of his tweets and also what he just said. We just played a little clip of his interview with Chris Hayes last night. If we enter a shutdown, congressional Republicans would weaponize their majorities to cherry pick which parts of the government to reopen. So, in other words, they would. I'm not sure how they would do that.
But they're already doing that. I mean, this is what Musk is already literally doing. That's what Doge is about.
They're shutting down. They're shutting down like Social Security Administration offices, HHS offices, and then they're reopening them in red districts or red states.
Yeah. He's saying that this will empower. This will, if we do that, if we had the shutdown, they will do what they're already doing. So we have to vote for this bill, which will empower them to do what they're doing even more so. That argument does not fly.
And I would say, like, there is the only argument. I will say this. I think that there is a more legal path for them to do what he's suggesting if they shut down the government. Like, there are provisions for the OMB during a shutdown to deem which agencies are essential or to presumably open up certain things. But it seems to me, once you have it within a legal framework, then you have the opportunity to do some politics around it.
But yeah, exactly. And I actually think, if we're going to steel man Schumer's argument, and I think, from stuff he said and Carville has said and other people have said, I think actually the strongest argument is that they think that this is for the courts, that the courts, what Trump is doing is so blatantly illegal, the courts will, shoot it down, and they have been shooting it down. And that is like the place where the battle is going to be fought at. And I think, that some people counter, well, what if Trump ignores the courts as he claims he's going to do? But actually, if you actually look at it, some of the legal analysts I've read are basically saying that that's not going to happen, and it's not happening, because it's not just a matter of Trump. If the courts say something, you have to have these government bureaucrats execute it, and these government bureaucrats don't want to be the ones to take the fall for Trump, right? So the courts. So from the best argument for Schumer is that we have an instrument to stop Trump. It's the courts, and that's much more effective than doing the shutdown. Now, but I think what you were leaning towards, and you can spell it out, is even if you do that, you have to make a political argument so that you can build a majority in support of that.
Assuming that the courts have the ability to actually enforce what they're suggesting, which is, increasingly difficult, it seems like, because the fact of the matter is, the longer it's drawn out, the more you're destroying these agencies anyways. And every time, at least, we have had a CR or we've had a government shutdown, there's always a provision to try and make people whole back, going back retrospectively. If they don't, it is because Republicans are blocking it. This is a political fight at this point. The material difference between what Doge is doing now and what they have indicated they're going to do in the future and a government shutdown, what they could do legally during a government shutdown, the material difference, it seems to me, is almost too small to measure.
Yeah.
But the political difference is massive. And also setting the precedent that you're forcing them to do this through legal channels, which makes it far more transparent and far easier to argue against politically.
No, I think that's right. And I'll say a further point on that political argument. Like, you could actually use the political battle to help the courts. That is to say, you could use the shutdown to get the Republicans to put in a provision saying that if the courts decide something, the Trump administration has to obey it, right? Like, you could use the leverage that you have to strengthen the power of the courts. But beyond that, it is an aversion to politics. And we've seen this like over the last, at least the last 10 years, maybe even longer, where the Democrats really prefer to avoid doing politics and to have the courts do their dirty work, or do their, execute their agenda. And I think one saw that with all the sort of, Mueller investigation stuff, going after Trump in the courts, which was justified, but which was never a substitute for like actually doing politics against Trump. And it is the belief that, we ourselves have no legitimacy, we have no power, but that there are these bipartisan, universally beloved institutions, the FBI and the courts, that can carry it out. And at the root of that is a real aversion to politics. It is an aversion. Basically, you have people who are deeply conflict averse. And I sort of like understand that. Like, I don't like to get into arguments myself. But if you have
do
that
you.
mentality, you should not actually go into politics. You should find another line of work. Become an accountant. I actually don't know why they have taken.
Do you
the
think
job.
that risk averseness? Because Emma has a theory that the reason why you're seeing Schumer and Gillibrand, and I can see, I can come up with a scenario where Schumer's like, I'm going to do this to service my frontline Democrats who can't vote against it. I'm steel manning him now. But Gillibrand, that's a weird coincidence. I mean, these are two blue states here, and she is adamant.
New York. I mean, that's
yes.
But she's also the head of the DSCC, right? So she's worried about she has two incentives here. It's the one that I said earlier, where these are the Wall Street senators, right? And she's really in bed with crypto. So I think now that she knows her career is kind of, Jonathan Cohn made this point, now that she's not going to be president anymore, her 2020 run fell flat. She's just no longer has the pretense anymore of being a progressive. So she's just all in with Wall Street, all in with crypto, and they are panicked about the Trump tariffs and the destabilization of the economy. And why and what government shutdowns do, people may not realize this, is that it freaks the stock market out, even in the best of times. Yeah. So it would be a compounding effect of the insanity that Trump is wreaking on the economy. So what she and Schumer are hearing are, just be good stewards, help stabilize this thing, and we'll reward you later. And that's what I'm thinking is happening.
Yeah, I want to add another aspect to this, which is that Gillibrand kind of got burned by being a progressive, especially on the Me Too stuff, where she took a very strong stance against Al Franken. And that was actually, I think, the right stance, and I admire her for it, but also really burned her with the donor class, who are not happy with that. And I think that actually contributed to some of the problems she had in 2020 in terms of getting donors. And I think that everything that she's done in not just on this issue, but other stuff, including her comments on Como, basically indicate that she's trying to make nice with the donor class to, fix up those bridges. And I think that is her political trajectory, that she kind of has seen that, if you're so dependent on donor money and you really take a stance that's against them, that's not good. And it's especially not good, frankly, if you're thinking of maybe not running again, having a kind of future career that might benefit from having friends in Wall Street.
I mean, that to me makes the most sense in this situation. And also, like, I mean, Emma's saying, the donor class, because they're, they understand the importance of government functioning to their business interests. They're also risk averse. I mean, it is this sort of like consultancy class, like corporate mentality.
Yeah, and to speak more about the New York Democrats, I mean, basically, there's a little bit of history to this, which is that, coming out of the 2020 election, where Biden didn't do as well as he had hoped, and the Democrats didn't, you kind of had this new political formation that consisted of these sort of popularist people like David Shor and Matt Iglesias teaming up with the sort of crypto people and with the sort of Zionist what these groups all shared was a belief that the Democrats had gone too far to the left, had become too dependent on small donor money, and that you needed to push back. Iglesias and Shore provided the ideological rationale. The crypto people and the sort of Wall Street money provided it, and the sort of Israel lobby provided the already existing political infrastructure. And what this was basically a counter-revolutionary formation within the Democratic Party. And it was designed to basically push the Democrats back to the right. And one saw it especially, in the sort of squad members that were defeated, Bowman and
Cory Bush.
Cory Bush, but more broadly, like just the type of people that they promote, and this political formation is particularly strong in New York, because of the sort of closeness of Wall Street, and that is basically the New York, the dominant faction in the New York Democratic Party, and it's why they suck.
I love the idea of like, we really got to do something about, we're getting too much small donor. Small donor.
The third way in their report on like fixing the Democratic Party, they say we have to rely less on small donor money.
Yep.
What's like, you fill out the blanks. If you don't get small donor money, then what money are you relying on? It's basically saying we have to be more reliant on crypto and Wall Street. And Schumer and a lot of these New York Democrats are very heavily involved in all this stuff. And so weirdly, even though New York, is seen as a blue state, it is the epicenter of a sort of counter-revolutionary political formation within the party.
Continuing on to Steelman Schumer, this is the theory that I just find to be fascinating. He said, like, if you do not fight this now, what do you think is going to happen in 6 months when they come back with next year's bill, which we now know, at the very least, Trump has signed off this week on essentially the Republicans going in and cutting Medicaid. Mm-hmm. And they say, he says, according to Steve Dennis, and I think he's a reporter for Bloomberg, Schumer tells me Republicans might try to jam Democrats again in September, but thinks Trump will be less popular then, and Republican appropriation might be more willing to stand up to him. But they refuse to do so now.
With a photo of him sitting.
Effing blinkered can you get? Like, as soon as I hear those words, I hear Obama talk about the fever's going to break. Biden says the fever's going to break. They all say it's all going to go away. Trump is going to alienate these people. And like, what? Like, in what world?
Yeah, I mean, this idea of like that there's a faction of Republican moderates who will break with Trump and fix things, and that we have to like appeal to them, and we have to like do all our politics to like elevate and like win over these people, I think belongs not in the field of politics, but psychopathology. And in particular of the delusions. I think you've talked about on the show before, but Chuck Schumer literally has imaginary friends. He calls, do you know this about this?
We're starting a program next week on this where we're going to interview a Bailey every week from New York State.
Yeah. And these are like, well, first of all, I love the fact that his imaginary friends, he first called them the O'Reillys, but then he thought that's too ethnic, and we'll call them the Baileys. So his imaginary friends.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know about that part of the story.
Yeah, no, originally they were called the O'Reillys. And now, and so basically his imaginary friends are not just sort of centrist Republicans, but centrist Republicans who are Irish people passing as white. Which is like, so he has these imaginary friends in his mind. He has a whole scenario for them. George Bailey is a fireman. The wife works part-time in insurance because that's what women do in modern America, work part-time to support their husband.
Her kids, meanwhile, are like having kids of their own. She's still not going to go back into the workforce, according to her.
That's right, yeah. And these are like, like they're swing voters. They can go either way. And if the Democrats are strong, he originally invented the O'Reilly's Baileys during the War on Terror. And it was like, well, these are the people who love waterboarding. And we have to like... I mean, if I really want to come down on this, it's basically anti-Irish bigotry. Like he is like sort of positing the Irish as this Neanderthal class that are not very intelligent, can be easily swayed, and love violence. And I'm sorry. This is I
did not know that Mr. Bailey was a fireman in this in Chuck Schumer's mind. But I will say this. I mean, it explains on some level the idea that he is using firemen in the wake of 9/11 were obviously one of the most sensitive class of people in New York to what took place on 9/11 because they all knew somebody who died in the towers. Or there, and the level of sort of knee-jerk anger that is associated with that. I mean,
I have to actually, unfortunately, I just quickly checked the link, and I have to offer a correction.
Okay.
Bailey O'Reilly, who changed his name to Bailey because he wanted to be seen as white, actually works for an insurance company.
And his wife is a part-time firefighter.
No, his wife works part-time for a doctor's office. Actually, I think the insurance company thing is significant because this explains why we cannot have universal Medicare, because
exactly.
Chuck Schumer's imaginary Irishman passing as white is works for insurance and does not want to hear about Medicare for all. So correct. All the fireman stuff was a brain glitch on my part.
But the big thing about Schumer assuming that Trump is going to be less popular and in September, and he might be. He might not be, but he might be. And maybe he's 5 points less popular. Maybe he's 8 points less popular. Maybe he's down in like Joe Biden territory in terms of being unpopular. But it also completely discounts something that I just don't understand how they don't understand this. Elon Musk is out there as Trump's enforcer with an unlimited amount of money to deploy against any lawmaker who breaks in terms of like the primaries. And September still not close enough to 2026 where Elon Musk couldn't dump in $10 million in the way that, you or I go and purchase a book essentially and change the dynamic in a primary race in the Republican Party. And all of those Republicans have to be completely sensitive to that. So it may be the case that Trump is less popular, but that does not necessarily translate into less sort of like into, a wobbly spine, as it were, for these Republican lawmakers.
No, and then if we've seen anything over the last 10 years, the trajectory is for the Republican Party to become more pro-Trumpist and MAGA. And this Elon Musk thing just like adds to that. But the dynamic is like, if you stand up to Trump, then you get exiled from the party, right? And so therefore, and this has happened to anyone, any of these great Republican champions that the Democrats have elevated, like Liz Cheney, like Kissinger, like they all get exiled from the party because Trump will come out against them and will use his social media power and his MAGA fan base. And so therefore, like, you're putting yourself, all your faith in a faction that has already been defeated, that has already has like no power, whatever. And so it's a non-existent faction within the Republican Party, and which can never really arise again because of Musk and Trump, and also voters who are literally figments of your imagination. That is the premise and basis of his strategy. And I gotta say, we're trying to steel man him. That seems like a bad bet.
Oh my gosh, it seems so crazy. And then what was fascinating is that, and I don't even know if they've maintained this fiction. They're going to offer. They're insisting, and this is what Schumer got, was a vote on a 30-day CR to punt, and the vote's obviously going to lose, but they're going to be allowed to vote on it, and it's going to lose. My guess would be 47-53, and Schumer's going to call that a win. We got the vote on something that they already knew was losing, and in what world do they think this? Does Schumer think this provides them cover? Because there's a huge disconnect here, right? Like the thing that's changed, even in the 20 some odd years where things got somewhat more, where information got more democratized, right? You had blogs and this and that, but and blogs didn't reach the same sort of didn't have the same reach as social media does in many respects, but it seems to me now that anybody who understands and could be aware that there was a vote on a 30-day CR that they convinced the Republicans to have, for that to mean anything to anybody at this point, they need to have a certain amount of savvy and awareness. This, I would say like half of our audience, 3/4 of our audience is probably aware. Okay, they get what that means, and but I would say almost 1-to-1, the people who are aware of that little dynamic are also capable of realizing it's completely meaningless. It's a total fig leaf. It means nothing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, this goes back to what we talked about before about the sort of, centrist libs turning against this. But there used to be, this class of yes, queen Democrats who will take symbolic victories, like Nancy Pelosi doing the clap, and they'll say yes, queen, and you're a traitor to the Democratic Party if you say that is really a symbolic victory. Well, at this moment of crisis, and this is a real change, all those people are no longer satisfied with symbolic victories. And these were your hardline soldiers who, if they had been Japanese, would be fighting in the Philippines until in the 1960s and 70s. Those people have given up the ghost. They've realized, the emperor has led us down a bad path and has destroyed everything that we have ever fought for. And they will no longer, Chuck Schumer does not have yes, queen, Riz. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, and I'm glad you used Riz there. My kids, you could place the age of our kids exactly by your use of that. And you, sir, you have Sigma Riz for using that term. But the scenario where Schumer, Gillibrand, but maybe 3 or 4 people who we anticipate to vote for cloture don't vote for cloture. The vote's supposedly going to happen in about 15, 20 minutes. There is some talk that there is, and I think, would you say Josh Marshall suggested this?
It was actually David Dayen.
Oh, David Dayen said that one senator could hold up
or deny unanimous consent for a time agreement, basically.
Could deny unanimous consent, which would delay things. Because right now, in the terms of the reports we're getting back from our listeners who've been calling all of these offices, all the voicemails are shut down. The Capitol switchboard shut down. And so they're getting inundated with calls.
Yeah.
If there's another 12 hours, they're going to get more calls. And so putting aside, let's say there's a mutiny in this, let's look at the other scenario, which is more likely, that 7 or 8 Democrats vote for cloture. They go on to vote, and then they all vote against, except for Fetterman and Schumer. They'll vote for the Republican budget. Where do you think this goes after that? Because there doesn't seem to me to be, as far as I can tell, any major legislative sort of conflict that will happen until the Republican budget. I mean, they're not going to do anything until they get this Republican budget squared away. So they think they can lay low.
Crazy thing here, that this was actually their moment of leverage, right?
Yeah.
And some of them, like earlier in the year, were saying, we don't have any leverage, we don't have any power, but like once the budget comes up, we'll have leverage, right? And so, the one time they have leverage, they don't use it. And basically, I think that basically this is why we're seeing an uprising, and politics will move away from whatever, expecting them to do anything, and we'll move within the Democratic Party. How do we get rid of these guys? How do we get rid of Schumer?
I mean, that's the thing, is that it seems to me you're going to have 6 to 8 months of, we got nothing to do.
Yeah.
And so where are we going to, there's no fight against the Republicans, at least in that.
I'm sorry, Sam. I have to correct you there. Chuck Schumer has a new book out. He will be going on a book tour. So he actually does have something to do.
No, Chuck Schumer does. But I'm saying everybody outside of the Senate, I think all that energy is going to go somewhere. And
I think it would be a pity if Chuck Schumer's book tour were suddenly inundated by thousands of angry Democrats.
If I could go on to Folly Market and make a bet right now, I would. That is a bet I would take.
Well, I did tweet out the locations for next week for his book tours, just in case people.
We have a lot of readers in our audience.
He'll be in Baltimore Monday. He'll be in New York City Tuesday. He'll be in Washington D.C. Wednesday. He'll be in Philly Thursday, and Saturday he will be in the Bay Area. So take with that information what you will.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, basically, we're in agreement. Like, the larger dynamic will be that this angry mass of Democrats, the only way their energy can turn is against the party now, which is why, like, in a lot of ways, I think like Keith Jeffries, let's just say he's no Nancy Pelosi, but he's actually shown more political intelligence than I would have expected, and Chuck Schumer hasn't, because for whatever reason, Schumer is much more insulated from public opinion.
Well, he's not running again until 2028, and for all we know, he may not. This could be his swan song.
And with
I think he's going to die in office. I mean, I think he.
Oh God, but AOC, if he doesn't resign, is going to primary challenge him. It seems pretty clear. And and my guess is that he's going to basically see the writing on the wall and probably say this will be my last term, and then that seat is open for her, because with this, he can't withstand this. I mean, I try not to get ahead of my skis. I infamously thought Kamala would win easily, and that was wrong. But there is a scenario here where Schumer has signed his own kind of the end of his own political career, at least as leader of the Democrats. I think that that's eventually going to happen regardless of how this cloture vote goes, because I'm sorry, the base is outraged right now. And my dream scenario for the next half hour is, or I guess if they are able to extend this vote, is that Schumer, Gillibrand, Fetterman, maybe a few others, go out on a limb, and the rest of the party saws off that limb, and they fall off the tree. Because there's a chance that if there are people that are smart political actors who have been eyeing, say, Senate Majority Leader or leader of the Democrats in the Senate, that they start to whip some votes privately and say, this is how we get rid of this guy, and then we can get elevated to the top of leadership. It's just Machiavellian stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a possible scenario. I've learned not to underestimate, how Democrats will stick with, bad leaders and bad politicians. Despite the fact that you have much more severe situations than this, where they've actively lost all mental faculty. So I think. I mean,
honestly, Dianne Feinstein was chairing these crucial committee hearings in the judiciary, and it was. I mean, everyone must have known, she doesn't know where she is.
I'm saying it's a dream scenario.
Yes. I mean, the question is, I think there's a leadership crisis. The question is there, at what point do we reach a critical mass where there's enough Democrats that are angry that they will overthrow the system? Because until now, the rule has been, it's my turn, right? Yeah. Like Hillary Clinton, it's my turn. And then really Joe Biden, it's my turn. And Dianne Feinstein, it was her turn to
Jerry Connolly, my
Jerry
turn.
Connolly. And even I think Dave Weigel, a friend of the program, I mentioned this case in Texas, I believe. It was a person who had died and then of cancer and replaced by another politician whose turn it was, who also had cancer. It's not Connolly. So this is this is a party that's deeply committed to seniority, towards keeping the people who have power in power. But at some point, I think it's unsustainable. The question is, I think steel manning Schumer, right? I think his thinking is people are going to forget this, right? That in 2026 we'll get back at least the House, so we might actually get the Senate, and then we can really go after Trump, and Trump will become very unpopular, and then I'll be the hero, and then the Baileys will love me, and the fake Irish will be my friend, and so that is his dream. That is Schumer's dream thing, and I actually don't think, given who he is and the fact that he's reached this pinnacle, he's not going to ever.
No, that's the problem with all of these senators. It was the problem with Barack Obama. They all had a formula that got them to where they are, and so they assume you always have to follow that formula. And
Well, part of the problem with gerontocracy is that the mental world of these people is in the past, right? I'm willing to think that people like the Baileys existed maybe in the 1970s, that there were some people he had met at a party and, wanted to be imaginary friends with. But, they don't exist now. And these sort of moderate Republicans that are going to turn on Trump don't exist now. But Chuck Schumer's mental universe is not the world that we live in, and it hasn't been for a long time.
Let me ask you one last question that is related to that. The Democrats' fealty to seniority, and we should say in the Republican caucus, it's not the same way.
Nope.
No, they don't do it that way.
Yeah, they're a real political party.
What do you think that is? I mean, why is that? Is it because? Is it a generational thing? Is it something that why that fealty to seniority, or is it just simply? I mean, I can understand how it works. It's we've been here, so we're all going to vote to empower ourselves because we're here, But is it because there was never a class of Democrats that came in where they had the there was not enough turnover? The Democrats never lost as many seats. So, I mean, if everybody comes in the same wave, then I can see you have more of an argument of we're not going to do this by seniority because nobody's got seniority. And so it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Republicans had been like out of power. I think it really goes back to the '90s, where the Republicans had been out of power for a long time, and there were a bunch of people, up and comers like Newt Gingrich, who saw their opportunity, who saw that like if we overturn not just the Democrats but the older generation of Republicans, we can bring in. That's my opportunity. That's my Machiavellian moment to rise, right? And the Republicans are, and I should say not just the Republicans, like you actually go to like political parties all over the world, and they are interested in maintaining power. And one thing they do is if a leader is unpopular, you push them out, right? Like you put out even Margaret
Or if the
Thatcher.
party loses the election, leadership resigns and they get fresh leadership.
Yeah. And you are here in Canada, Trudeau, right? Like, liberals wanted to win the next election. So, like, this guy's unpopular. Let's get rid of him. Let's not wait for, a disastrous debate where he's like openly senile in front of millions. But the Democrats didn't have that moment of like, like we're out of power. This is the way we can seize power. But more, I think it's this aversion to politics. And it comes from being an ideologically diverse party. That is to say, the Republicans are pretty like more unified in their commitment to the right, whereas the Democrats have centrist liberals and now a left faction. And within that context, like you think like you don't want to have internal battles, so you just have a principle of seniority, and you don't have to have internal battles about politics and where we should stand.
It just happens automatically.
It happens automatically, and I think that is it's a grave kind of mistake. And actually, I think that also explains the fact that it's a non-ideological party, and it also explains why conflict-averse people like Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries rise to the top, because they're the ones who can talk to all different factions and claim a kind of technocratic expertise, and claim, although clearly they do have preferences and factional things, but they try to disguise it more, and they try to avoid political fights within the party that would make the party have to choose and to take a strong stance. Those are the types of people that rise in this political party. Now, having said that, I just don't think that that's sustainable. I mean, what we've seen is that model has lost to Donald Trump twice. Has created this situation where you're having basically a government that's committed to overturning the Great Society and the New Deal through executive fiat. And I think enough Democrats, including, the Neera Tandons of the world, including the centrist wing of the party, who are just realize this is not sustainable. We have to change. So I think that, if there's ever a Tea Party moment for the Democrats, if there's ever a moment where you could get an outside takeover that challenges them and primaries them, I think that's it. And I think the work of the next few years is going to be to try to build the infrastructure to do that.
Jeet Heer, national affairs correspondent for The Nation magazine. I had wanted to talk about your piece in The Nation about COVID. We just, the 13th, yesterday was in fact the 5-year anniversary of New York City shutting down.
Yeah.
But we'll have to wait. It doesn't always have to be on an anniversary.
That's right. We can take it up on another occasion. Yes.
All right, Jeet Heer, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Always great to be on.
Yep. Thanks, Jeet.
Folks, we will, let's just do a freebie Friday. We're here and the vote has not taken place yet, right? No. You can call Gillibrand's office if you're in New York. In her Hudson Valley office, this is 845-875-4585. So that's 845-875-4585 if you're a New Yorker. We're probably in that zone of you can call really any of these senators from anywhere, but call Schumer's office, call Gillibrand's office, call your senator's office, because even if they've already said we're voting no on cloture, they're going to be asking their staffer what's happening at the op, and they're like, we can't use the phones. The phones are shut down because we're getting so many calls. And they walk onto the floor and they're like, things are getting crazy. So this is what we want. Like, it's not, again, likely or unlikely that they're going to vote no on cloture in enough numbers to actually prevent this bill from getting to the floor, but we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, it's pretty unprecedented. Just to give people an update on like some of the news in the past hour. I mean, the Pelosi called out Schumer and basically criticized the strategy. Over 50 House Democrats voted or wrote a letter criticizing Schumer's strategy. And Raphael Warnock was asked about Schumer and said, I think I said this earlier, but I think come 26, 28, we'll get some new leadership, which is essential. It's a shot across the bow. So I don't think Schumer was anticipating this, but I don't know why he wouldn't have. But yeah.
It's also an interesting choice that he went out yesterday late in the day and basically said, I'm lying down. Like I think he anticipated some of it, because you don't generally, you try and set the table for these things if you think it's going to be a problem. And he was trying to get out there and get his argument out there first as to why they were going to capitulate in this manner. So that is what, we could call Gillibrand right now, I guess.
So then we could do that. Yeah.
See if she's got any meme coin advice.
Oh, let's play this clip. This is a clip right now. Now,
breaking news, basically.
Michael Bennett from Colorado is not one of those people that you anticipate is going to be in the vanguard of a partisan fight.
Right.
Colorado, still purplish state. It's getting a little bit bluer over time, obviously.
I think it's a blue state. But both him and Hickenlooper are voting against the cloture and the CR.
But there has always been this sort of like, maybe part of it is like, I still consider it purple, and it just because I'm old. But you're not getting the vanguard of like fighters, partisan fighters from Colorado.
They're not members of DSA.
Exactly. Or frankly, like the Progressive Caucus.
Right.
Bennett, if you had asked me like a week ago, there's going to be 8 Democratic senators who are going to vote in favor of this Republican budget because bipartisanship is so important. Bennett would be on my list of maybe.
Right.
But apparently CNN's reporting that is not the case. Here is Ken Klippenstein clipped something from CNN just.
Oh, I guess this was earlier this morning.
Now, according to Democratic Senate sources I've been talking to, the biggest frustration inside the Democratic caucus isn't just Schumer's decision, but the indecision most of the week. The lack of clarity about what Democrats should or would do played out in a series of private Senate Democratic meetings that got pretty intense. In one notable moment, I'm told that Senator Michael Bennett of Colorado, who has not been shy about his frustration with his party leadership in the past, erupted during one of those meetings. 2 sources familiar with the moment tell CNN that Senator Bennett accused the Senate Democratic leadership, his leadership, of having, quote, no strategy, no plan, and no message on this spending bill. Now, according to...
and here's the thing, is that like, when I hear that there was no plan the week going into this, it definitely feels like he is getting pressure from donors.
Yep.
Because nothing that's happened right now has been unpredictable. We've been talking, we all knew when the deadline was. We've known for at least 2 weeks what was going to be in this so-called continuing resolution, which turned out to be worse than a clean continuing resolution. At one point, Democrats were like, we're not doing a clean continuing resolution. We want an affirmative statement that you're going to abide by this. Because if you're not going to actually respect Congress's ability to appropriate money, we've written on the budget that Department of Education gets $10 billion, and you come in and say, well, we're going to cut $5 billion after you do it. What's the role of Congress? So 2 or 3 weeks ago, the general talk was like, we can't have a clean budget a continuing resolution. We need one that says like an affirmative,
get some guardrails.
An affirmative guardrail.
But people may not know what clean CR means, right? Which is just basically keeping the government open for a shorter period of time using the framework from the previous budget.
Using the exact same budget numbers that existed in the year before.
Yes, but that's not what the Republicans did here. They are trying to push it through because it helps enable Musk and Trump to continue
It's even
what they're
different
doing.
than that. They cut, they're cutting basically, Washington, D.C. has to cut $1.6 billion from their budget with this. They cut in other places, and you'll see it reported, I can't remember what the number was, $13 billion, which, in the great scheme of things is not necessarily huge, but it's actually $26 billion annualized. They add $10 billion to defense, which is actually $20 billion annualized. And on top of which, not only did they not offer an affirmative vow that we're going to actually respect the appropriations that we're voting on now, they're on the floor being quite clear that we will not respect even these appropriations that we're pretending to make. So they're guaranteeing more cuts to this budget and basically saying this is window dressing. This just gives us the air cover to cut all of these agencies.
The other thing it does, and again, we have to ask if Chuck Schumer and Fetterman dislike this, given their support for, or their weakness on the abduction of Khalil, but the Federation for American Immigration Reform, or in my opinion, a white supremacist anti-immigrant group, says one of the most positive changes in the bill is the funding increase for ICE. The new CR allocates $9.9 billion to ICE, $485 million more than last year. These additional funds will be critical in addressing ICE's budget shortfall and helping to carry out the Trump administration's removal efforts. ICE was facing a severe budget shortfall as President Biden left office.
It's insane that this is included. I mean, that and that Schumer is backing it. But I think that they are panicked about how the market looks right now, and they're anticipating a reward from donors if they stabilize it. And Chuck Schumer didn't get the memo out to the rest of his caucus, apparently, that, hey, Wall Street's in my state, buddy. So I'm going to look out for that. Either way. And when he claims on Chris Hayes that he's backing up the federal workers, when the literal union that represents them, the largest, as Hayes pointed out, says, we want you to oppose this continuing resolution. I mean, Schumer, don't tell the federal workers what is good for them when the union is telling them
we know what's better for you.
The Democrats should be sponsoring bills after this on the floors of the House and Senate named after federal workers and veterans who have been fired by this administration. But we can't even get the leader of the Democrats to listen to the union? It's astounding.
Do you want to play AOC's on Tapper or do Chris Murphy's?
Take a quick break and then can I be back for that? We're not, no freebie
Sure,
Friday.
let's
so
do some
IMs.
IMs. Also, do we have that Larson speech? It is in the Slack. David J. Sederista, 2011, left voicemails for both. Mr. Letter, every senator I called identified as myself as a federal worker. I told them I wanted to vote. No one close or to shut down the government, and everyone I worked with did too. Oh, okay. Trav from Reno. Emma, your closing message on the Emma Jordy report yesterday made me think about my own experience about my stance on the Iraq war. In my friend group, my buddy and I were that frat guy, and we both recently apologized to our Emma for how we treated her during that time. We are grateful for those who had the moral clarity at the time and the grace not to disown us. Left his best.
That's fascinating.
Rosen is a no on cloture. That's according to Nassau County spokesperson. Can we get that? Verified? That is a. She was in the quiet. She's a no on cloture. It's confirmed. All right, that's great. I would imagine that means that Cortez Masto may also be a no on cloture. She just won. Oh, no, Rosen just won. But Cortez Masto, I think, is not up until 2028. So Alex from Michigan. Sam, there's a reason why terrestrial radio used to make calls on air. It's great radio. I love this live Call Your Senator segments. Shows exactly how easy it is.
I think it also helped kill time on the radio too, maybe a little bit. So
that's not why we do it.
Of course not. No, we'd be doing it all the time if so.
MJS 16. Sam, he did have that NYT op-ed ready to go, which indicates even his initial no vote was a total canard. I'm not sure what that's about. Midwestern Trench. Did you see that picture Nina Turner posted of Schumer and Trump absolute turncoat stuff?
She reposted it for
That's
me.
from 2017.
I posted it, but I didn't post the date. It was just more a symbolic post of so Nina reposted. I think that was me. I mean, not to take credit for it, but.
Militant apathy. Sheldon Whitehouse, a Democrat that I trust, is basically saying they had no choice but to vote for cloture. I'm surprised. I was a little surprised by that too. He was also the one pushing the sort of fig leaf, we're going to vote for a 30-day continuing resolution. Give me a break.
So did you say, I heard you say Rosen's voting no?
Rosen's voting no right now.
On cloture or the CR?
On cloture. Here is Representative John Larson. This is from 2 days ago, I think, from Connecticut. Talking about this the dynamic that's going on right now within our government.
We're an equal branch of government, and you start off with a blather, and yet look at the empty seats here. Where's Elon Musk? I'm sure he's a genius and is a very credible person because of the wealth he's accumulated. But that does not put him above the law or the responsibility to come before this committee in this Congress. If he's so great, if these plans and all the fraud and abuse that he found are so eminent, why isn't he here explaining it? You know why.
I'm playing video.
Because he's out to privatize Social Security. He's been on television the last couple of days talking exactly about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and what he intends to do. Privatize it. The American people, some of them may have been born at night, but not last night.
Yeah, nice. There we go.
Here is Chris Murphy, also from Connecticut.
This is my pick for new Senate leader for the Democrats. I'm putting that out into the universe.
He is explaining why he is voting no on cloture.
So I want to tell you why I'm voting against the Republican funding bill when it comes up for a vote tomorrow. You deserve to know the stakes here. First of all, you get this. Trump has a plan, and he's implementing it to destroy our economy and our government, to create a crisis that allows him to hand our government over to his billionaire friends and to suspend our democracy. I wish that weren't true, but it is. The question then is this: does the funding bill make it easier or harder for Trump to implement that plan? Now, I judge that it makes it easier, and so I can't support it. The basics here are this: Republicans are in charge, right? They need Democratic votes to pass a funding bill, but they never negotiated with Democrats. They didn't even try. They wrote their own partisan bill. They filled it with all sorts of right-wing shit. This isn't a continuing resolution. It doesn't just continue last year's funding, even though the press is reporting it that way. It makes big changes to law, and they're all changes designed to make it easier for Trump to implement that plan to destroy our country. For instance, it makes massive cuts to housing programs, to Social Security, to programs for healthcare for working families. That paves the way for Musk to advance his illegal assault on those government services. It gives Trump brand new spending powers. For instance, the ability to start new military programs that haven't even been authorized by Congress. At this moment of crisis, that sounds like a really dangerous idea. And it takes key guardrails off of presidential spending authority. That allows Trump and Musk to more easily move money from one account to the other. Now listen, Trump and Musk are going to keep acting illegally, no matter what this funding bill says. Whether we stop them, that's going to be up to the courts and up to our ability to mobilize people all over the country against their agenda, which is deeply, deeply unpopular. But by passing a bill that makes their plan easier to implement, Democrats risk putting a kind of bipartisan veneer of endorsement on their campaign to give our government to the billionaires and to destroy the rule of law. And I just won't be a part of that.
We've heard Chuck Schumer's claim on this, that he's banking on Donald Trump being weaker in September. And then somehow, I don't even know what they're supposed, I don't even know how that works, because in September, it's going to be a reconciliation bill. So there is no filibuster. So in other words, the Republicans will need no Democratic votes to do anything. In fact, not only would they not need any Democratic votes, they can lose 2 or 3 votes.
Yep. This is the leverage
really,
point.
I mean, like the idea of a Republican senator voting against a Republican budget in 2025, maybe even in the 21st century. Maybe I could see Mike Lee or
Rand Paul
when it was absolutely guaranteed that it's going to pass. They will vote. They'll be released to do that. But I mean, beyond that, it's just insane. Understand, that's what Schumer's strategy is: to wait to September, hope that Trump's numbers are low enough that some Republican senator says it's in my best interest to vote against the Republican approved budget. This is insane.
He's also overestimating Trump's popularity right now. Right now. I mean, he slipped below 50% approval in most polls. Like, that is, for a honeymoon period, extremely low. He's on the best of days, a deeply divisive figure in this country. This is not Reagan 84. He didn't win in an overwhelming landslide. He got less than 50% of the popular vote. And they're not going to fight him on a dirty continuing resolution that basically opens the door to cut healthcare, to cut funding for Washington, D.C., and formalizes Elon Musk's illegal takeover of our budget and federal government. Step down, hashtag step down Schumer.
11 people arrested in Schumer's office.
Yep.
Sunrise movement.
Great job.
Great job.
Here is AOC on Jake Tapper's program last night. And she's making the case against, for the Senate to reject, say no on cloture, essentially block the Republican budget bill. And, listen to this.
And Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York joins me now in the studio. Congresswoman, thanks so much for being here. So on social media, you've been urging people to call their senators, tell them to vote no on cloture, which allows the bill to go forward for a vote of just a simple majority, and to vote no on the vote for a simple majority on the Republican bill. What do you say to the counter argument of like a government shutdown hurts the country, hurts the people you represent? From Queens and the Bronx.
Absolutely, and that is why House Democrats have laid out a plan, as well as several Senate Democrats laid out a plan to keep government open for another 30 days as Republicans negotiate a deal with Democrats in order to have an extended government funding bill.
But the House would have to come back into session, right? I mean,
but House Democrats are in town. I mean, we're afraid of working? Is that the problem here? That the idea that, God forbid, members of Congress have to fly back and do their jobs? I mean, genuinely, come on.
So Chuck Schumer, I guess the Senate Democratic leader, your senator.
Pause it for a second. I just want you to contemplate, like, let's just stay here. Jake Tapper's actually like bringing up like, well, I mean, Mike Johnson specifically sent Republicans home as a way of creating leverage. And Tapper just swallows that as if it's like, wait a second. Understand, how many people in this country are on call by like, Walmart to come in for a shift that they're not aware of at any point? Like, I mean, the idea that it is a legitimate, it is a legitimate sort of like a dynamic in our government that like, well, we have a crisis, in terms of the budget, which of course was orchestrated. They could have dealt with this 6 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago. I mean, they knew they set the date, and people have left town. I mean, are you really suggesting you're gonna vote against this when some people might have to fly back?
And just a really good look for her to be able to say that and make that case that she wants to do her job.
You'd be laughing in his face.
And let me just be a bit of a political nerd for a sec. What she did yesterday was expertly done. After this appearance, there was a CNN article that came out that basically previews that she is going to primary Chuck Schumer if he doesn't resign. And we'd been wondering what she's setting herself up for. Is she going to try to run for president? It seems clear she's going to try to run for Senate. And what was included in that article was how many centrist House Democrats are urging her to do that because of how unhappy they are with the lack of fight in the Senate when they're up for re-election every 2 years, putting themselves on the line with votes, trying to oppose the Republicans and doing so. And when the Senate turns around and they have no risk except, from their donors, and they throw them under the bus. So she's developing like a political kind of, she's getting the backing of her House colleagues in this effort. And this was coordinated yesterday.
Evan says on the IM, 2 senators called. Seriously easier than I thought. Just left a message. Very easy to do. Let's continue.
Chuck Schumer, I guess the Senate Democratic leader, your senator, said at this meeting that he is going to vote for cloture. He is going to vote to allow there to be a simple majority vote. You think that's wrong?
I believe that's a tremendous mistake. Yes.
Why?
I think, well, first and foremost, the American people, if anyone has held a town hall or has seen what has been happening in town halls, American people, whether they are Republicans, independents, Democrats, are up in arms about Elon Musk and the actual gutting of federal agencies across the board. This continuing resolution codifies much of this chaos that Elon Musk is wreaking havoc on the federal government. It codifies many of those changes. It sacrifices and completely eliminates congressional authority in order to review these impulsive Trump tariffs that he's switching on and off. And on top of that, for folks who are concerned about effectiveness in government, this Republican extreme spending bill removes all of the guardrails and all of the accountability measures to ensure that money is being spent in the way that Congress has directed for it to be spent. This turns the federal government into a slush fund for Donald Trump and Elon Musk. It sacrifices congressional authority, and it is deeply partisan. And so to me, it is almost unthinkable why Senate Democrats would vote to hand the few pieces of leverage that we have away for free when we've been sent here to protect Social Security, protect Medicaid, and protect Medicare.
You have.
Should also add, in this bill, there is a provision that would prevent Republicans from having to vote on Trump's tariffs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she says that later in the interview. She brings that up, yeah.
Do we have it? You want to play it?
I'm not sure if I included it in the excerpts I sent. It's okay.
There would have been an obligation for the Republicans to sign off on these tariffs.
Yeah.
So the Republicans know this is a way to basically disarm any potential sort of like vote that they have to take that might be damaging to them in 2026. I mean, it's just fascinating to see how much Chuck Schumer is giving away, politically speaking.
Did you hear, this is just, I thought you'd appreciate this. She said the Republican extreme spending bill. Another Democrat would have come out and called it MAGA,
Right.
Trumpy. She was so
She understands who she's going to have to run against.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get it, but like she's also just a very disciplined interview and like what was on message the entire time. Do we have that second part where she's asked explicitly about the Schumer primary? Do you want to play that?
Yep.
Yeah. People should watch this whole interview if they get the chance. It's like very juicy.
The job Democratic leaders are doing, not just Senate Democratic leaders, but also Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, your fellow New Yorker, in terms of standing up to Trump?
Well, when we look at this vote around this government funding bill that we saw this week, Leader Hakeem Jeffries was able to keep the entire House Democratic Caucus united and together.
Except for Jared Golden.
Right.
Except for
Every
one.
single House Democrat, including every single House Democrat who won a Trump district, except for one out of over 200, voted against this deeply partisan, extreme Republican spending bill. Not just because they're Democrats, but because they know it's bad for the country.
Mm-hmm.
This bill is bad for the country. And so I think that in terms of Democratic leadership in the House, we've seen that result in the House. I think it's time that we see similar results in the Senate.
Would you, what do you think of the job that Chuck Schumer is doing? Would you ever challenge him, do you think?
I think that what we need right now is a united Senate Democratic caucus that can stand up for this country and not vote for cloture and not vote for this bill. And I think that the strength that we have is in this moment. Reconciliation and all of these, Republicans do not need Democratic votes for that. They need it for this. And so the strength of our leadership in this moment is going to demonstrate the strength of our caucus. And I cannot urge enough how bad of an idea it is to empower and enable Donald Trump and Elon Musk in this moment. It is dangerous and it is reckless.
Well, you just talked about the strength of your leadership. Chuck Schumer just said that he's going to vote for cloture. Not only the Democrats can do it, but he's going to participate in it. Does that mean that you think he's a weak Senate leader?
I think that that would be a mistake. But we have time between now and tomorrow, and I hope that individuals that are considering that reconsider it. I genuinely do. I don't think it's what New Yorkers want. I don't think it's what the country wants. This is genuinely not about Democrats or Republicans. This is about deep cuts to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. This is about the evisceration of the federal government. This is about codifying the looting that is happening at the behest of Elon Musk in order to pay for his tax breaks for billionaires. And we have a responsibility to stand up for it. That is why people elected us, and that is our responsibility to them right now.
All right.
I'm just looking, Jake Sherman, Politico?
Punch Bowl.
Punch Bowl. Question for Leader Jeffries. Is it time for new leadership in the Senate? What do you think Jeffries says?
I don't think it's time to have that argument right now, but I do think that many members are very happy. Okay, I'm not looking at the screen. That's my guess.
Here's his next question. He offers zero support for Chuck Schumer. That's real.
That's what Joe Biden would call daylight.
Well, the Pass the Torch Joe little people were retweeting me, criticizing Schumer. They formally called on him to step aside. The I mean, I just want to read this quote that I was alluding to earlier, that a member said that Democrats were, quote, so mad that even centrist Democrats were, quote, ready to write checks for AOC for Senate. This was the article that came out yesterday about her potentially primarying him. And now 50 House Democrats have written a letter criticizing Schumer's decision. Nancy Pelosi just came out and criticized Schumer. Now Jeffries says next question. I don't think it's, and this is a fluid situation, but it's not out of the realm of possibility right now that this is the end of Chuck Schumer's ability to lead the Democrats in the Senate, and that they open this up to maybe younger people, someone like Chris Murphy who can communicate and do partisanship, someone like Michael Bennet, who I would think, would be an option. Klobuchar is probably next in line, but I do not think she would be a good choice. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know how he can withstand this. I mean, for 4 more years, no.
This may not be the end of him, but it's probably the beginning of the end of him. He is not going to enjoy that book tour.
Well, insure it. I mean, if you are in any of the areas I listed, Baltimore.
Oh, don't plan to go. Go see if you can get a ticket now.
It's like $40, $45.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So you can pay him
the Baileys.
Well, there's a special
The
guest.
thing I love about the Baileys is they always pay to go to book tours.
They're upper
That
middle
is
class.
one of the things that they really do. They love to read, and they love to pay
you gotta
to
buy the
go
book
see
separate.
a book tour.
Do you know who his special guest is at the New York City book tour stop? Why don't you guess?
Oh, well, I already know who.
Oh,
it is.
damn it!
Yeah, of course, it's Richie Torres.
It is Richie Torres.
Yes, one of the things the Baileys say is that, one, I want to pay a lot of money to see a book tour because it's so worth it. We love a book tour. And then one of their biggest draws, of course, is Richie Torres.
I love Richie.
Everybody loves Richie.
Everybody.
And he is, excuse me, I can't read
The
my
Bailey
papers. And they love it. We have a breaking clip of Chuck Schumer now. Will you pull up that clip
yes.
without the yeah? And here he is. He's on the steps, and he's cheering. Keep the audio down there. Ready? Yeah, there he is. He's yelling, "We will capitulate.
We will go on vacation.
Selling
We will capitulate.
Bailey coin. Bailey coin.
We will capitulate. We will capitulate. We will capitulate.
Buy my book.
Buy my book. Buy my book." God. Oh, I gotta take a break. I gotta walk away now. Buy my book.
Oh God, that freeze frame! Look at him. Look at him. Just put it up real
Gold
quick.
Rush John.
Oh my God.
Gold Rush John says that Schumer's new book is selling for $10 million per copy. We didn't do great on the actual volume, but I will tell you, we made a lot of money.
Quality over quantity.
Yep.
Jeffries, we are not afraid of a government funding showdown, and we will win that showdown, is what he's saying today. Right?
Well, we will not. We will not have that showdown. We will not have that showdown. We will not have that showdown. We will, Liz Cheney, why are you so aroused right now, Sam? Tim Pool's plunger, the last thing Schumer did with his majority seat before Trump came in was push through a bill targeting Palestinian protesters or Palestine protesters. What is the latest on the vote? I mean, the vote was supposed to happen 45 minutes ago.
Wow. I don't know.
A delay in the vote is
Good.
good. It's either good insofar as that it means that the senators, there's more time for you to call your senators right now. Local offices, Washington offices, call both. It's super easy. It is super easy. And all you got to do, tell them, I want my senator to vote no on on cloture and no on the continuing resolution. And by saying no on cloture, you are indicating that you are actually following this. This was, I did an internship for one summer in a Quincy congressman's office. And it was actually during the omnibus tax overhaul bill in 1986. And my job was to answer the phones and write down
what they say.
What they say.
I did this at Gillibrand's office too as an intern.
I had two jobs. One was to do that. Yeah. The other was to get the congressman, because the drinking age was 18 in D.C. at the time, to get the congressman 3 packs of Merit Lights and a case of Busch beer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, this dude drinks the same beer I do. He was from Quincy. And there was a formula. Every person who called was worth like X number, I can't remember what it was, constituents. If you wrote a handwritten note, it was also like an even higher number of constituents. If it was a typewritten one, then it was a little bit lower because they assumed that you got it and just sort of filled it in and redid it. But, you know, these days, for someone to pick up the phone and call and then know what they're talking about with the continuing resolution, I should say the cloture, this gets them nervous because then they realize like, oh, I don't know if we're going to be able to get away with claiming, well, I voted for cloture because I just thought it should be an up and down vote. Incidentally, I'm old enough to remember when people like Schumer and whatnot were like, we can't get rid of the filibuster because if we do, we won't be able to stop some of the worst things that the Republicans could do.
Yep. And the filibuster's here and they're refusing to use it, right? So when you're calling and you're talking about cloture, what you know is, as Sam is saying, it means you're highly engaged and you may punish them, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm restating what you just said.
Northern Spy. Yes, call into White House. I was on my way to work and heard Senator Whitehouse might be a yes. Pulled over, called White House and Reed's office, then re-upped my membership to the Majority Report. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you for both.
Yep.
Josh from Alabama. Hey, MR Crew. I want to offer a minor critique regarding a segment from yesterday that included clips of interview with Senator Tuberville. Tuberville is a clown and certainly deserves condemnation for his policy stances, but I think it's counterproductive to MR's mission of spreading leftist progressive politics when you make fun of the way he talks. I'm not going to read anymore. Did you just hear me mock Schumer? It is just...
I'm sorry, it's just fun to do the accent. It's not that deep.
I know mockery of the South was not your intent, but the reality is the segment could easily be used by the right to discredit your message by labeling you as coastal elites.
Let him go for it.
Yeah, I mean, what, is comedy illegal?
Don't be a snowflake! Don't be a snowflake!
Like, that is not what I'm concerned about, them using it as propaganda. I would feel slightly bad if some Southerners saw that and took the wrong message of it as an audience member, but I think they should also probably grow tougher skin. But as far as, like, them using it against us, please.
Yes, no, I understand your point.
No, yes, right. I mean, and I think it's a different thing if you're, like, making fun of somebody in a classist way using a Southern accent like that. Like, that's Yankees do that on occasion. I've heard it before, but we're punching up and making fun of Tuberville and just imitating his cadence.
If he had a masshole accent, we'd be doing a masshole.
We just did it with Chuck Schumer.
Molly Gray Giedi says the Congressional switchboard won't let me ask for my senator. Puts me straight to the hold music for 6 minutes and counting. Go team. I mean, that's great because they know. They know it's not Republicans calling up to like, I want, vote for the continuing resolution. While you're on hold, get on your phone or your computer and look up where a local office is.
They have them all over the states, right? There's one in Moorhead, Minnesota for Klobuchar.
Oh, yeah. No, there should be all over the states. Igor Bobik of HuffPost. Gillibrand is not answering any questions today. Weird. Weird. Very weird. Do we have sound from that Jeffries thing? No.
Well, there is sound. He said it at the podium.
Oh, let's watch this.
Here he is.
Is it time for new leadership in the Senate?
Next question.
Oh, boy.
New leadership in the Senate?
Next question.
He didn't really say, he didn't sell that one. But, ugh. Come on.
This is you have right now a nascent argument in the country that Republicans are attacking government. And it's quite clear that Chuck Schumer has been planning all along to cave in this way. And by planning, I mean, that was his intention. There is no other plan. The best they could come up with is like this fig leaf thing to cover it with the 30-day CR, and we'll convince them to allow us to vote and lose this other vote, and it'll be proof that we've won.
He thinks so little of the American public. He thought he could do this performative, 30-day CR and then end up voting for cloture and no one would know this.
That's exactly what they thought.
Yep.
And if you were planning to really leverage this, if you had not listened to James Carville's advice, don't do nothing. Just sit back, give it 30 days. Incidentally, I think that 30 days, he made that comment, and it's public comment, right? I mean, we're meant to hear it. He made that comment, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Conveniently, meaning you got to wait 2 more weeks after continuing. In other words, don't do anything.
Yep.
Let him hang himself. If a Democratic leader in the Senate who was committed to fighting what Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Project 2025 is doing, is they would have created a narrative over the past month and a half. They are shutting down elements of our government. They're shutting down parts of our government, and they're doing so illegally. And the courts are stopping them, but they're still doing damage to our government. They're shutting down our government. They're shutting down our government. They're shutting down our government.
Yep.
That's what you would say over and over again. And so when people show up at these town halls that the Republicans are doing, they would say, you're shutting down parts of our government. And when people who are just sort of like, don't follow this stuff so closely, hear the echoes, it's just in the ether. They're shutting down parts of the government. And then when you get to this vote today, and you say, we're not participating in your shutting down of the government, and the government shuts down, who gets blamed? Look at the anger in this. Representative Chuck Edwards in North Carolina. This is in Asheville, North Carolina. They were hit with you'll remember, a hurricane and massive flooding. And there was a massive amount of propaganda put out there that FEMA wasn't doing the job, all this stuff.
I mean, in Asheville, it's like an artsy area, right? So, but it's still in a state that's definitely purple, but very important Senate race in 2026. Right? That's the Senate race with what's the name of the North Carolina?
Tom Tillis.
Tillis, yeah.
And so there is anger towards FEMA. There was supposedly there was attempts, anyways, to propagandize and say, FEMA's not doing anything. And I think maybe people on the ground realized it, but these are people who are angry because the federal government is being shut down and they can feel it. And this isn't from the shutdown. This is from what DOJ has been doing. And here is Representative Chuck Edwards Republican North Carolina in the 11th district, and he is confronted by a constituent who is a vet.
Yep.
Thank you for that feedback. To be clear.
All right, pause it just so that you can leave it up there. He is now signaling to the sheriff, go arrest this guy. Go throw him out of here.
The veteran.
Yep.
To be clear. Sheriff.
And he goes on after that to, is this the press conference afterwards, or is this right after that? Okay, yeah, this is, this is him as he's leaving here.
Be reinstated for at least 45 days, and then there would be another, process to evaluate where we're at there. Yeah.
One more?
Just hold. I feel like this is not productive with everybody yelling at me. I mean, if you want to hear.
Oh.
Yeah.
You are having an emotional breakdown right now.
The questions are coming out of the box one at a time. I'm answering those for you. You're not going to like a lot of them. And you certainly will have the right in the next election to cast your vote based off of what you hear coming from me now. All right. He reinstated.
He went out then, to do a press conference outside of there and so that he could get his message out. And apparently there was a lot of protesters still outside the gym. Credit where credit's due. The vast majority of Republicans now have stopped doing these press conferences or these town halls because they're afraid of.
Wasn't that a directive from the party nationally?
It was a directive, but I think some of them are like, well, I'm going to keep trying it, and I think you'll see less and less. But the point being, why are they shutting these down? Why are they shutting down these town halls? They are shutting down these town halls because their constituents are mad that parts of the government are being shut down. Like, half of the narrative is already in place in a way that, I've never seen before, that if you want to say the Republicans are shutting down the government, it's already out there. Like, this is, and generally, look, I am not, I am relatively hesitant to say shut down the government over X, Y, or Z.
Well, you're sympathetic to the idea that
there's a lot of federal workers who are going to deal with it. It undermines our government, but this is already happening.
Yes, right. Like,
it's
for example,
already happening.
One of the issues with government shutdowns is that air traffic is or flying is not very as safe because you have this rolling shutdown, and sometimes there's shortages with air traffic controllers. People aren't getting paid. But we're already seeing that happening right now. Planes are on fire and falling out of the sky, and Elon Musk is trying to replace FAA workers with SpaceX people. So why? I mean, all of the worst stuff that happens during a government shutdown is being done piecemeal right now, but more permanent. And it's just sometimes, as I said to start the show, sometimes you have to go on strike. Sometimes you have to go on strike. And that's essentially what this mentality is. And to use, it's not, to extend that metaphor is just to say well, it's not even a metaphor, but to the union for the federal workers supports it. So Democrats voting against this because of how bad
they don't know everything.
Right.
So.
Right.
My donors have some things.
That's
to
what
say.
Schumer, yeah.
We've got donors. We've got donors.
Yeah. But the markets.
All right, let's turn just for Cortez Masto. So she's a yes, voting on cloture.
That's pathetic. So they're splitting in the in Nevada. Rosen just got reelected, right? So Cortez Masto's up in 4 years.
I don't know if it's I don't recall. I have a feeling she is 2028. I'm 2028. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, she was reelected in 22. So.
Noel from Sam Fran, this Carville line is really sticking in your craw, Sam. I'm not criticizing. I'm just not used to hearing it. It really is. It really is.
The roll over and die.
The don't do anything. It's just so stupid.
I mean, I tweeted out like, I don't know, way before that they were just going to follow the playbook set by Labour in the UK, which is let Boris Johnson and their string of psychos and the Tories exhaust themselves and their credibility so you can just win by default. That's the way that they love to win.
But that's how they've operated basically my entire life, so I don't know.
And that's why the world is in such great shape right now.
Let's just change topic for a moment as we wait to see what's happening with the votes here. Protesters occupied Trump Tower yesterday. Did you play?
We played a little bit of the footage, yeah.
And up in Albany, there was also, was Zoran Mamdani?
Oh, we did play that, yes. Okay. Yeah, he confronted Tom Homan.
This is from Trump Tower, just so you see the protests that are taking place here. Okay, and for those of you who can't see, a lot of people wearing red shirts. We'll talk about that in a moment. These were not MAGA shirts, I should tell you. But Fox News covered this.
Wow.
Yeah, and these are people who are protesting the disappearing and now the detention of Mahmoud Khalil. He is a legal resident of this country who was a negotiator with Colombia about, from the protesters who were protesting Israel's genocide. And they were protesting on behalf of Palestinians in Gaza. People know by now he's got an 8-month, he's got a child on the way. His wife is 8 months pregnant.
She's an American, and he's married to an American. Yeah.
He is locked away in, is it Tennessee? I think it is.
Louisiana,
sorry. He's from New York. He was just sort of disappeared there. And people didn't know where he was for a long time. If you look at the, I don't know if it was the warrant or the justification of it written up, it's absolutely garbage. It's fascinating, this document. Maybe we'll show that in a moment. But here's Harris Faulkner. This is how much they have to lie about what's going on here.
So you hear them chanting, "Free Mahmoud, free them all." I'm wondering, Ari, who are they all? And if the world is watching our nation right now, and they know us as a bastion of free speech, so on and so forth, when you hate, when people feel under threat because of what you're saying.
Pause it for a second.
That's actually.
I don't know if she's looking at the monitor, but there's a lot of these red shirts have the slogan, "Not in our name."
What
Weird.
could that mean?
Weird. All right, let's go back just a little bit, and we'll hear her talk about how she's
hateful individuals.
Hateful. Let's see.
And they know us as a bastion of free speech, so on and so forth. When you hate, when people feel under threat because of what you're saying, that's actually not protected speech.
That's right.
And look at some of the signage in here. I mean, they hate Israel.
Pause it for 1 second. 1 second. Actually, so-called hate speech in and of itself is not, I don't believe, contrary to the First Amendment. certainly, like it.
Well, what if somebody says never again for anyone?
Well, I mean, putting that aside, that there isn't a hate speech on display here. There would be a lot of people in jail just for their Twitter, their tweets at me. I can tell you right now, if hate speech was a problem.
You should get some kind of fee for turning people in for some of that stuff.
Let's hear her say this again.
And look at some of the signage in here. I mean, they hate Israel. They hate Jewish Americans. They are anti-American.
Now, hold on. I just want to just clarify something. They hate Jewish Americans? Let's listen to that again. I just want to pick up on that.
And look at some of the signage in here. I mean, they hate Israel. They hate Jewish Americans. They are anti-American.
Okay. Here is the irony of her saying that. As she's saying they hate Jewish Americans, there's a shot of all these people wearing red shirts. These people are all Jews that she's saying hate Jewish Americans.
Including a friend of the show, Noah Colwyn, who got arrested as a part of these demonstrations. Shout out to him. But
they are from a group called Jewish Voice for Peace. And those hateful signs that they have up, holding, say things like, opposing fascism is a Jewish tradition.
Well, have you considered that she's trying to protect them from self-hate? Because sometimes the Harris Faulkner, yeah,
exactly.
Pope of the Jews, Harris Faulkner.
Listen, I can speak from personal experience. Don't fall down that self-hate.
Oh God, I didn't even get it.
Hating a wormhole. Believe me. Oh, did she say anything else after that? It is. Yeah, keep going. They hate Jewish Americans.
And they hate Americans?
Jewish Americans.
This is about Israel, you idiot.
Big points here. One, I'm going to start with the speech facade, the myth that this is about speech. What happened to Mahmoud Khalil had nothing to do with speech. It has everything to do with creating an encampment that is where Zionists are prohibited, where Jewish students are not allowed to walk on their own campus. These are crimes. These are deportable events. These are things that we would never tolerate. No. As for all these people who are now in Trump Tower,
not happening.
I hope that this administration will do what the Biden administration did to the January 6 people who walked inside the Capitol. They have the technology, get their faces, match it up with the database, and if any of them are non-citizens, every one of them is trespassing. They all should be deported from this country, too.
Wouldn't they be trespassing anyway if they are causing people to fear? There are people who pay to live in that residence. There are businesses on that floor of the lobby. This is not a safe situation. If you are Jewish in that building, do you feel safe?
Pause it for a second. I'll tell you something. I don't know, except for during, and I will say, not even as an adult, but as a child, I was in a building during Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah with more Jews than in that. That's the only time. At the high holiday services, they'd have all the entire congregation go into the Worcester Auditorium. But I don't think I've ever been in a building with more Jews that wasn't a Jewish holiday. And even the temples I go to now, for sure, I don't think there's that many Jews. I actually think that's probably one of the safest places to be if you're Jewish.
Well, the risk that Jews face there are that they would get arrested for protesting Israel.
By the police.
Yeah, I might not feel safe in Trump Tower either. I mean, gosh, what fascist is going to roll through and, I don't know, come at you or something like
Literally, as she's saying that, she is juxtaposed in the split screen with opposing fascism as a Jewish tradition sign.
I don't know.
Did she ever say the name of Jewish Voice
No.
for Peace in this?
Which makes me think it's deliberate.
Deliberate, yeah.
I think it's deliberate.
I mean, I'm sure it's deliberate by somebody. I'm sure they also don't have to say anything to her. And she just like going on, this is instinct.
Who is her guest? Who's advocating?
Oh, that's Ari Fleischer.
That's Ari Fleischer?
That's Ari Fleischer.
Did he
One
lose
of the
some
most
weight?
odious. No, he did not.
Oh.
On the contrary.
Okay.
This is, and first off, people, to the extent that anybody was charged with trespassing on January 6th, it was always a secondary charge after violence or inhibiting the functioning of our government.
Yep. they're modern McCarthyites. And did you see how we've conflated Zionists and Jew within like the first?
Yeah, that's important because what they are referring to is, at least in Colombia, there were agitators who were kept out of the encampments by protesters. But everyone who would know that the statement "they kept Jews off the campus" is as false as what Faulkner is saying here, because all of the protesters themselves were Jewish.
Breaking. Haley Talbot at CNN, Klobuchar is a no.
That's a big
on
no.
cloture.
Because she is in the leadership team under Schumer. It's, I believe it's Schumer, then next up is Dick Durbin, and then next up is Klobuchar.
I mean, this indicates to me that they're feeling a lot of pressure. And the question is, so Schumer is, and I don't even know if he has this level of control of his caucus. My guess is probably no. Releasing people who would otherwise vote. And by releasing, I use that loosely, because Schumer is not the type of Senate leader who's going to make anybody do anything. He's going to service them. He is a concierge as opposed to a leader. But there were people who were probably doing favors, and Klobuchar is in the leadership, and she would feel some obligation to provide some room. And so if they get this, if they vote for cloture, my guess is we're going to get down to like, they're going to have no vote to spare.
But my concern then is that Rand Paul flips back.
Oh, Rand Paul will flip back. I think Rand Paul will probably flip back. What's going to be interesting is if they're able, they want to be able to have one more vote than they need from the Democrats. And I'm saying the Democrats themselves who vote.
Jake Sherman laid it out pretty well. This is the path to cloture that they need now. Schumer, Fetterman.
I thought Bennett was a no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. These are the people who are. Bennett's a no. Okay, so
I thought Bennett was a no. Didn't we just hear that?
This is very. It's all
It's very difficult to say.
It's very
right
difficult to say.
I thought Slotkin was basically saying the other day too that she was a no, but maybe not.
I mean, is Gary Peters going to be a no, even though he's retiring and she's not?
Bennett's a no.
Bennett's a no, yeah. So Sherman is not, doesn't have his count correct.
But here's the thing: what they don't want, what the Democrats don't want, the Democrats who are going to vote yes on cloture. In other words, to allow the bill to proceed. What they don't want is they don't want to vote and have every one of their votes needed. So if the Republicans need 7 votes to feel safe, these Democrats are going to want 8 votes. Now, if I'm retiring, I don't have to worry about it as much. But you don't want to have anybody come at you and say, if you had voted no, then you would have stopped this bill. You want there to be one other voter, vote. And that way you get protection. I'm not the reason why it was, even if I had voted yes.
Yeah. But I mean, this is, I think, also Klobuchar basically seeing the writing on the wall with Schumer, and she wants to take out her position.
Hope springs eternal, but
Sam,
he's in trouble.
It's not hope. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Jeffries just threw him under the bus. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of time.
Oh, yes. That I would agree with.
But she's having to think about, like, is there a leadership overhaul, or can I just can I rise to the top because of my seniority? I hope that's not the case, because I don't think she's a very good politician. But she may be good as like a Senate kind of bipartisan person. But we need a leader in the Senate right now.
Let's do one more clip. What should we do here?
I'm looking now.
Do we have any notion of when the vote's going to be?
It was supposed to be over an hour ago. Taking a look.
Let's do the Eric Weinstein. Is that one funny? We haven't heard from Eric Weinstein in so long. This is where has he been? he's got to be busy. You know, I mean, Peter Thiel, is he still working for Peter Thiel? He's got to be very excited.
Yeah, where's he at now? He was the brother? I always get them confused. He's maybe the more sane Weinstein. That's correct.
I mean, that's very difficult to say.
Okay, but I know
this is the one who thought that he invented or had discovered some new physics.
And you have to go on his Discord in order to find it because he's not going to put it through peer review.
He's also the guy that said that the vaccine has to be good for the COVID vaccine because Israel gave it to their population, and by definition, whatever Israel does is a moral choice.
Well, that was better reasoning than his brothers, who was just an anti-vax psycho.
That's what I'm saying. The more sane one.
I am getting so much abuse out there from people on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. I'm just like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends who you fought shoulder to shoulder with. And in particular, I'll be entirely honest, one of the most off-putting things I ever heard in my life is that when you look at people who've been fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you know, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call? Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement.
Eric, I have to tell you, you know, you don't get any apologies or, yeah. Well, you don't get any, someone coming around and saying, oh, I should have done this.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have an opportunity.
Pause it for a second. Now, I just want to be clear here. He is saying that he's getting grief from his friends on the right because he wasn't endorsing Trump, and Rubin doesn't really understand what he's saying, and it's hard because he's trying so gently, and he's mad that he's not being embraced by his new right-wing friends in some way.
So when he said this, I was like, oh, is he going to do a Lincoln Project thing and criticize how the Republicans just kowtow to Trump? No, it's just about his personal
Of course,
anger.
it's completely personal.
And delusions of grandeur. Which
Go
is
back.
90%
Oh yeah.
of his content.
These guys. I can only imagine what the Weinstein brothers' mom was like.
Oh my God.
I mean, I think she must have, like, when these guys came home, like, from school, and like, oh my God, look at you. You came back, like, oh, did you just take a poopy? Well, yes, you did that so well for a 14-year-old.
Oh,
good
God.
for you. And you wiped yourself. I mean, these guys really.
Well, I mean,
really,
narcissism is probably hereditary, is what we're discovering.
Maybe some environmental sort of leak.
Or that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, either way.
Fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you know, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call?
Who are you?
Never. Not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement.
Eric, I have to tell you, you know, you don't get any
All right, pause it for one second. I just
or,
think it's so fantastic. Like, he's what Weinstein's saying. Go back to the beginning of this clip too. What Weinstein's saying is he's saying they're mad at me for not endorsing, but nobody came to solicit my endorsement because I'm Eric Weinstein. Why didn't anybody come and say, you know, President Trump didn't call me. The
dinners.
Trump children didn't call. I didn't get invited to Mar-a-Lago, or maybe he did, but I didn't. Even if I went to Mar-a-Lago, I didn't get invited.
That'd be funny if Russell Brand got the invite and he didn't.
And then Dave Rubin, of course, whose brain is almost like you can almost not measure his brain waves. They're so small, and so almost non-existent. Thinks that Eric is asking for an apology. And
but I like how under all of it, Eric doesn't question at all that he might not matter that much.
Well, he does say on some level, like, you know, nobody cared about my endorsement.
Begs the question of why should they?
Right, but that's the second part of it.
That was
he
their
can't
mistake.
go there.
My new physics explains it all, but you need to be a paying member of my Discord to find out. But here's Rubin trying to be all salty, like, you know how this game is played. And in fact, then Weinstein's like, I'm not talking about that game. All right, but go ahead.
It's out there. Yeah. From people on the right, and nobody on the right stands up. I'm just like, wow, you guys are a bunch of cowards. You can't even stand up for your friends who you fought shoulder to shoulder with. And in particular, I'll be entirely honest, one of the most off-putting things I ever heard in my life is that when you look at people who've been fighting the war longer than you are, and then you say, well, you know, you didn't endorse. Like, did you ever call? Did anyone ever call? Never, not a single phone call. Nobody cared about my endorsement.
Eric, I have to tell you, you don't get any apologies or, well, you don't get any, someone coming around and saying, "Oh, I should have done this."
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have an opportunity. If my endorsement mattered, like when they called Bobby said, "I have things that I want." I had things that I wanted to know. What are you going to do about universities? What are you going to do about science? To hear Chris Rufo go off about, we're going to stick it to the Ivies. I'm like, well, I understand getting rid of the woke. I understand getting rid of the DEI. I understand all these things. You're going to destroy the crown jewels of American science? Who are you? Exactly. My claim is you have.
Do you think there's much left there at the universities?
Oh my God, go to a seminar. And, look, I go in economics, I go in mathematics, I go in physics, and I go in biology. Yes, there's so much great stuff happening in universities. I'm a huge critic of American universities. But the current group of people doesn't know anything about what they're destroying.
Pause it. Was this not predictable? We have literally 40, 50 years of Republican assaults on universities. Like, way before woke or DEI, those terms were ever invented. Republicans have been trying to attack universities and education as a fundamental pillar of their project since the 1960s, early 70s.
William F. Buckley wrote a book that put him on the public spotlight called God and Man at Yale.
I mean, this has been ongoing, and to be like, I'm really surprised.
Well, also, he's kind of doing the half thing that Sam Harris has been doing, where Sam Harris has been kind of excommunicated from the right because he thinks that Trump is a lunatic and he was pro-COVID vaccine, which, I don't like Sam Harris.
Well, Sam Harris would say, I never was on the right. I just have an intense hatred of Muslims.
But they came up together as a part of the IDW, right? And so they're still buddies, I would guess. And Weinstein here is really saying, okay, well, I still supported Donald Trump, but no one came and asked for my endorsement. I'm in Sam Harris no man's land now, but I did all the right things.
Name recognition between him versus Robert F. Kennedy, a little bit of a gap, I think.
Oh, do you think? Do you think that Bobby Kennedy was able to move more votes than Eric Weinstein? Interesting theory, Matt. But I'd need to see some evidence. And I guess you don't have any. Do you really think that people, the Weinstein name? Oh, incidentally, he's not related to the one who is in prison. And the Kennedy name, I don't know, man.
Both political royalty.
It's an interesting theory. I'm going to have to ideate on that for a while, but continue.
The current group of people doesn't know anything about what they're destroying. The USAID stuff. Well, that's a laundry list of weapons. We're trying to destabilize regimes. And now you can see that, we were trying to destabilize our own people, right? You have to ask, can I at least get a hearing with what are these things? If you just go line items, as I said, you wouldn't want to do it after October 7th if you were auditing Israel. Say, why are we providing pagers, walkie-talkies, and tech support to Hezbollah? And because that's part of the secret statecraft that we were up to. And the fact that it's cancerous, the fact that it's wasteful, the fact that it's immoral and illegal and all these sorts of things, those are very important facts. But you do have to realize that you can't just keep saying sunlight is the best disinfectant in Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Does this just get us back to something
I don't
that we
even
talked
know
about
if I understand what the point that he was trying to make.
Is he criticizing how they went after USAID?
It seems it's unclear to me. I think he's saying we can't make that transparent. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't quite tell. I think he's trying to be, he's trying to walk some type of razor's edge. And
get attention out of it.
Oh, yes.
But USAID, this is from a DevEx, which I've never heard of before, devex.com. But USAID staff shred as many documents first and reserve the burn bags for when the shredder becomes unavailable or needs a break, according to an email written by Erica Y. Carr, the acting executive secretary of USAID. So even if you want to get, which I think would be useful, getting to the sort of things he's talking about within USAID where it's weaponized against other countries, you wouldn't want to tell them to use burn bags and get rid of all the evidence.
And incidentally, patently illegal. Right. There is a Government Records Act. You are not allowed to do that because the U.S. The citizens have a right to have that information preserved, A, and B, maybe even made public to be determined by a judge, the judiciary, whether this stuff meets certain criteria. So
that's why we have expectations for the JFK documents, for instance. Go ahead.
Well, you got it already. No. You said you can't have a panther in the China shop that selectively knocks over the China. And you and I have been it was just like one of the most insightful things. We don't have to agree on it, but my claim is it's very dangerous to do what we're doing right now. And if we did it with more care, I'm directionally very much in favor of, when I was asked by Konstantin Kisin, what is Trump going to do? I said, he's going to renegotiate the world. This is the third founding of the Republic. We had Washington, we had Lincoln, and we have this.
And you're pleased about that. It's just you just want. So that's the interesting thing. I sense you're pleased about directionally every which way is going. You'd like some sort of more of a barrier or something.
Can we do this like adults? Do we have to signal to all our allies, you'll have no idea where we're going to be? We need to do a lot more assurance, explain to people why things are going on. I have no idea from outside whether this is as crazy as it looks, whether there's method to the madness. I understand some of it. I don't understand other. And the thing that I keep getting from so many people who do have connections, like, I haven't been to Mar-a-Lago. You've been to Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what's going on inside of this thing. So everybody who's outside of this,
it's very golden. It's very gaudy.
It's not that. The issue is, what's the plan? If you can't pick up the phone to call your own friends who fought the same war.
Oh my God, this is all, I know what's sort of fascinating about this is we're just hearing him complain that he's not getting the information he wants. He is not talking about, I thought when he said your allies, why isn't Trump communicating to other countries around the world? And I just realized that he's basically saying, how come no one's calling me and telling me what's going on?
I'm sitting here looking at my phone, waiting.
I'm waiting. I'm not invited to Mar-a-Lago. And then, of course, Ruben has to say, well, I've been. And it's very gold. No, my point is that no one's calling me and keeping me on the inside.
Isn't that kind of how, we see this in media, and it's just, I guess I'm naive about it. There's so many people that when they feel like they're not in the in crowd in some political area of, whatever, they're not getting the guests they used to, they change their politics.
That's exactly what's going on here.
It's all motivated by personal connections, and the idea that
it's always been that for him too.
I know, but the idea that, I guess there's so much running on the right. The idea that anyone would get into the media space except to have conviction about something.
What are you gonna do? Be one of these guys that says oh yes, I agree with all these other people, and that Trump is doing everything great. That's not how the Weinsteins are built. They're built different.
Yeah.
There's a quote here from it comes from a racist guy who used to be racist, who I think probably still is racist now, Richard Hanania, but one of his sources tweeted or gave this to him. I'm an NIH-funded biomedical scientist with conservative leanings. I know at least a dozen scientists, a small closeted minority, who voted for Trump largely because of frustrations with DEI and extreme wokeness that had permeated every aspect of the university. Each one of us deeply regrets their vote for Trump and are utterly ashamed of it. We are absolutely horrified at how mindlessly destructive this admin has been to the scientific institutions. They are single-handedly destroying the STEM dominance U.S. established over decades. Average Americans simply, this is their elitism coming through, average Americans simply do not realize that we are now on the verge of a precipitous decline in STEM. We all admit that the warnings about Trump MAGA were on target, and the thing we argue about now is whether the damage is even reversible. All the lefty overreach was annoying as hell, but the MAGA disdain for science is 100 times worse.
I would address these NIH-funded biomedical scientists that their predictive ability in terms of what's going to happen with experiments leaves a lot to be desired. Now, as scientists, they probably appreciate doing this experiment and getting all the data. The problem is, however, this is probably one experiment that you don't want to engage in because it very well may be irreversible. I mean, and here's the problem, is you have this stuff going on, and there's, look, I don't know how we would ever explicitly quantify how many people there are out there, like these NIH scientists, like the IRS workers in St. Louis, like the people who are not going to get contracts, like the farmers, whatnot, who are regretting their vote. And of course, the other people who sort of anticipated this would be a problem. But what Chuck Schumer is doing, he is making it absolutely impossible for Democrats to sort of nationalize the sentiment, to make it like a cohesive movement and make it very clear how Democrats are in opposition to this. And it will take a national movement if you have any hope, and I think the hope is minimal. If you have any hope of peeling off 1, 2, 3 members of Congress to make them somewhat reluctant to pause and be like, I'm not sure I should go along with this because I'm in a, purple district in New York, or I'm in a purple district in California, or I'm in a purple district in, whatever, Illinois, wherever it is. I don't know if I should do this because it's making it very hard for me. I think it's unlikely you're going to peel them off because of this threat from Elon Musk. But man, you got to try.
You got to try.
Because this stuff is not going to there's not going to be a cohesiveness that is going to impact every congressperson around the country unless it becomes a national message. You cannot rely on the different pockets around the country. And if you had spent the time in creating this narrative of what Elon Musk and what the Republicans and what Project 2025 was doing, in terms of basically shutting down parts of the government, you could easily transition to they're shutting down the government. All we got to drop is the parts. Because the reality is, too, that when a government shutdown happens, there are some things that still function. It is a complete failure of leadership by Chuck Schumer.
Yep.
And, it very well may be that everyone who believes it's a complete failure of leadership, which, sort of feels like now, the majority of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Needs to do what Chuck Schumer has been incapable of doing in his entire career, which is, and Democrats generally are bad at doing, that is, take the loss and make it the basis of a victory in the future. Lemons, lemonade, whatever. What's our update? Do we have any idea what's happening?
Nothing. Since, I mean...
This vote was supposed to happen an hour ago.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that, at the very least, they're still scrambling to make sure that they got the votes.
Yep.
Usually when they got the votes, they take the vote.
Basically, per of NBC News, it says that the only 3 who've said they vote yes publicly are Schumer, Fetterman, and Cortez Masto. I think Gillibrand is is going to vote yes too. So, but Gallego clarified that he's, he also, when he said no, he meant the CR and cloture, which some of them are trying to get cute, right? Like, so Gallego says, yeah, I don't get cute with this shit, basically. So he's
I don't get cute with that shit now.
Yeah.
I was trying to be a little cutesy about it
But
before.
both, I mean, Gallego and Kelly are doing this centrist thing, and they're both no's. So
and this is why you got to keep calling, because every centrist every frontline Democratic senator in Arizona is, sort of frontline Democratic senators. Nevada is too. We got that the split. Every one of them that doesn't say yes, I'm doing this, provides less cover for those who do. It makes it harder. That's why I'm really surprised about the Nevada delegation splitting.
I am too. It's interesting because, I mean, both Georgia Democrats have come out on the right side. Both Arizona Democrats have come out on the right side. And I think I would not be shocked. Is Cortez Masto a part of like Emily's List or something like that? I mean, that could make sense. That's Gillibrand has deep connections there. I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, she's sucking up to Gillibrand, who's the head of the Democratic Senate campaign committee. Maybe that's just a theory. I don't know. Who will decide who gets all that money and where it goes?
Doji-de-doo-doo. Sam, lines are super busy, sometimes don't connect, both DC and local, but got through to Press Padilla and Schiff in California to stay no on cloture and CR. Piper, did you say what Durbin is voting? We have not heard. Dave from Talon says, settle in, MR crew. Order a bottle of Irish whiskey before it costs $400. Micah in Berkeley, Schumer keeps saying the courts will be shut down in a shutdown, but that's not entirely true. No, it is not. My fiancé starts for a vaccine startup. My fiance says Tim Pool's unemployment claim. The medical director, president, execs all voted for Trump, and now they're getting worried about their NIH grants. Amazing.
It's people who have tough time paying the bills who I think we should be a little easy on. But sorry, guys, you are a scientist.
Yeah, you should have known. You should have known better, idiot.
You stupid assholes.
Well, sometimes you need to do the experiment to find out. You don't want to assume.
I tried to read the research first.
Clem, the people are aroused. Chuck Schumer, literally a month ago. And Paul Ryan, Blue Sky posts are called skeets, Sam.
Wish.
Thames, is that a joke? Thames Darwin, this argument from Schumer is like the head of the SPD in Germany in 1933 said, well, I've got to vote for the Enabling Act. Can you imagine what Hitler would do without the act? Dark Soul, quite the change of tune from Schumer's shitty billionaire buddies TikTok when he actually has to do something for once. Militant apathy, it's in God's hands now. Sledge and Sickle, Schumer and his feckless leadership should have been primaried long ago. What Schumer's like classic move is tacking to the left. Well, a year or two out from the election.
Yeah. So for folks wanting to keep track, here is the latest. Basically, it's the maximum amount of votes with the public declarations that Schumer can get is 11, including himself. So that's dwindling a little bit. I can send this updated chart. Now it's basically Durbin, King, Shaheen, Hassan, Schatz, Peters, and Hirono.
That are still extant.
Gillibrand is still technically extant, but I think we know how she's going to go.
Okay, so wait, you're saying we haven't heard from Peters yet? Let's
Here
just
it
look
is,
at this.
Basically. So that's
who's CCM? Oh, Kathleen Cortez Masto. Okay. Yeah. So there's 4 probably with Gillibrand.
Yep.
And then they need 3 more.
They do need 3 more.
Out of Durbin, King, Shaheen, Hassan,
Although
Schatz, Peters, and Hirono.
Because they would need 3 more if you believe that Rand Paul will cave.
He will cave.
Right.
If they need him.
Yep, but that's what I'm saying. They would need him in that scenario.
It's going to be tough because I can see Durbin doing this as a favor to Schumer. They have been longtime friends, and if Durbin's leaving office,
yep, he's 80.
I don't know what's going on in northern New England. King, Shaheen, and Hassan.
I mean, King is 80. He just got elected.
White House is no, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
White House was going to try and be part of that group.
Schatz and Hirono, I'm just perplexed. Like, I understand their concern because a government shutdown would disproportionately harm their state of Hawaii because of how many federal workers are there, but the union is saying that they don't support the CR.
Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this much longer, but when the vote comes up, maybe we'll hop on YouTube and do a stream. Before we go, folks, we've got some news. The show for the past couple of years, I don't know when it was exactly that we came out of.
Can we bring the chart off? Hold on one second.
Oh, it's chart still?
There we are.
I'm trying to think of like when we got back into the studio, or I know when I did, like in the wake of COVID, but part of the process of we're 5 years out from the lockdown, but maybe, really 2 or 3 from when we really got out. You came on in October of
November of 2020.
Of 2020.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. And it was just you two in here for a while, right?
Yeah.
With like shower curtains.
There's a shower curtain hanging from that rod I'm looking above to protect us.
Well,
from each other. It worked. I don't think either of us gave each other COVID in the end.
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
Never did.
All right.
Matt gave us all COVID at one point, but but part of the the challenge was like getting back to some semblance of normalcy. And Brendan left us sometime around that. All the dates, my brain has gone to mush. And we were very lucky to have Bradley show up and help us sort of like readjust and rejigger as we started to come out of like the sort of the COVID, post-COVID world, and which is not to say that COVID is not still a problem. I do suggest that you take all precautions. Long COVID is a real bitch, and the more that you get exposed to COVID, the more likely you're to catch it, and it affects your immune system. But I'm saying as a social issue, I'm speaking about it as like a social dynamic. And we had to adjust to a new video system and re-up it. And Bradley has been a huge part of basically getting us back to normal and growing. And
we started doing video guests too, and wrangling all the video guests, which was a new thing.
Yeah,
we started doing.
That was back before COVID. We would just do audio calls. I don't think we ever had. We would just have a picture.
Yep. And a Chiron.
Bradley is moving on. I just want to take this time to acknowledge the great work you've done and the
what a camera angle.
Not so much on the camera work, but the great work you've done and the encyclopedic memory you have about congresspeople across the country. It's sort of shocking in some respect how encyclopedic that knowledge was.
It also extends to like college football players from like 10 years ago or something like that, like the third string running back on X team.
I've never ever wondered about a college football player probably in my entire life, except for like one guy from Holy Cross like 30 years ago, or Gil Fennerty, I think his name was.
I'm shocked he was Irish.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. But Bradley, literally, you can be like, what's going on in Iowa? Oh, well, in the 5th district, and that type of thing.
Who's ex-representative? Oh, they're from this place.
Exactly.
Like, okay, I've never heard of them before in my life.
And we'll miss Bradley. I know you guys are going to miss Bradley. Hearing from him, but the nature of this show, we've had a lot of people come through, and I will say, our producer emeritus crew goes on to some pretty prestigious things. We've had people like go and work for Bernie Sanders. People go out and getting their PhD in health policy, and start their own shows.
Meme coins.
That's your next venture?
Bradley coin.
And Bradley is about to introduce his meme coin.
Pre-rug pull.
Yeah.
So I want to, and apparently, according to Buckets and Buckets, Bradley is the only one who can pronounce Western New York cities and towns correctly. Here is a shofar for Bradley.
Thank you, guys. It's been the thrill of a lifetime, truly. It's last almost 4 years, and I'm very, very grateful for my time with all of you. I'm hoping I won't be a stranger. And,
definitely not.
To the audience, too, to all my friends in the YouTube chat,
Chat's going
YouTube
crazy.
mods, Twitch mods, Discord mods. Thank you for everything, and I love you all. And hopefully, remember to think about me when I leave. Don't forget me is all I want. Is what I want to leave you with.
No, you will be ensconced in the emeriti. We just need funding for the museum.
Or
the fun app
plaque.
songs. The fun app songs sort of work as that.
Yeah, that's
Exactly, that's true. DSA in Atlanta, we love you, Bradley. Good luck. Hack all things. Bradley is very poggers. Twitch chat loves you. The circus in town. Will Bradley's chuckle be in the background? Best of luck. Dave from Lynn. Bradley, no. Thanks, Obama. Steve Austin saying ain't so. We'll miss you, Bradley. NASA County spokesperson. Bradley, gonna miss you. Noel from San Francisco. Great job, Bradley. I'm sad to see you go. Wish you best of luck. No. Recovery mind. Surprised you don't think about football players. More Sam left his best. Kentucky leftist. Bradley just started off as just some guy. Now he's leaving us as a legend. Best of luck, goat. Queebean, Bradley, you the king. Wish you the best. Ashman, Bradley, goated. Kunapa, Dad, aloha, Bradley. It's getting, I can't even keep up with now. It's keep going down. I mean, this thing's moving so fast. Charlie Jerk, I'm voting no on Bradley leaving. Ryan, I'll miss Bradley's laughter in the back. Mikey Love, world-class independent media producer, Bradley. Tom Cotton's beard says, I will miss his sonorous voice. Someone says, school day's over, you're still on. It's moving, honestly moving so fast. I can barely keep up with it. I didn't open up the Adium today. Jibber Jabber, no, not our favorite random guy. Farewell, Bradley. You were just truly a regular guy. Punch Drunk Pulpit. I remember Sam hyped up the Bradley reveal so much more before he started, and damn, did he live up to the hype.
That was so ridiculous, I remember. Did the whole week. It was like a countdown to the reveal.
Tater Tot, what are Bradley's future plans? Tim Pool, you're having an emotional breakdown right now. Smart B. Oh, also Bradley goated. Ginger Squatch, getting my vasectomy reversed so I can have a boy to name Bradley.
Stupid.
Not your state rep. Can I get a shofar for my wife? She's a citizen as of today. Mind Pillow, I'll miss you, Bradley. Love to hear every time you jumped in the conversation, whether it was about politics or football. Always a good take. Vinny from Buffalo, Bradley, the GOAT of all time. Charlie Jerk, call your senators. Vote no on Bradley leaving. We'll miss you. Thank you. I mean, on and on and on. Let this fill up. Hopeful one, Emma, we're crying too.
I wasn't crying.
Oh.
I tried to hide it so much more sleekly this
We
time.
need you to be Mamala of the country.
Oh, I wish I could help that thing. But yes, I love Bradley. I don't want to talk about
I
it.
love you too.
All right, Bradley, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
commissary privileges for you as emeritus producer last a lifetime. No more, rationing of the desserts or the salad or anything in the buffet. Like it's a full on. You get to have multiple ones per day at the commissary, and you can go up and your tables, of course, are bussed now, so you get all the emeritus privileges.
It's what I was jealous of when Brendan left. So.
Yes.
So.
I mean, he really,
he's down in the commissary right now.
Oh,
he
yeah?
really abused it. All right, folks. Tater Tot. One last Polymarket drop for Bradley.
Oh, yes.
Margot from Mass, losing Bradley is losing one of the only housewife watchers too.
Don't I
Not
know
just
it.
sports and politics. Kowalski
One
from
of the only.
Nebraska. Please let Bradley know I'm crying because he's leaving. It wouldn't hurt if he didn't matter. Gold Rush John. Emma's not crying. Eric Weinstein is
Live from the Polymarket studio in LA.
Oh, very nice.
Biscatchual. Does Bradley have a Blue Sky handle to follow?
Yes, I do. I
Yeah.
need to look at it. I can put it. I haven't really posted on it. I do though.
Yeah, it's much better than Twitter these days, but
Squirt Cobain. Tim Pool announcing he's leaving YouTube the same day Bradley leaves?
No
Coincidence?
way.
You guys got a special little thing planned, don't you?
Yeah, sorry guys. We're to announce it now.
Risa, Bradley, come hang out in the Discord one time. All right, folks. Bradley, great job today, this week, last 4 years
That term.
almost. Matt, Emma, great job this week.
Thanks.
Folks, we will see you on Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie bar, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light's shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I get somewhere I lost my drive,